Now I know what it's like when you get to stay up that late for bad football.
I was done in halftime.
I wanted to see if they hung 60 on him or 70.
Well, they did.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
Bless you. Bless you.
Thank you.
There you go. Get out of your system, baby. Yeah.
Can't wait for Dolphins Bills to do their best Georgia TCU impression on Sunday.
Wait, I'm sorry. What was that, Felipe?
Felipe's already said the Dolphins are going to get beat by 60. He's just talking to talk.
Mostert is out now, too. Or he's doubtful.
Well, but he was their backup running back. I mean, he was the guy they got from the Niners that moved ahead of him, right?
Playing like a 1.
Well, and he did have the big game against Buffalo. There's no doubt. The big run.
And last week.
And last week against the Jets,
Yeah.
he got outrushed by Wilson. He had 71 yards on the ground.
Still pretty good. In a game that bad.
I don't think there was any good in that game.
Except the result.
And I watched the whole thing. I didn't see any fucking good. I saw that as bad football. But that's just me.
Oh, wow. He got outrushed by 1 yard.
Okay. But you're acting like he had 140 yards in the game. He had 71 yards. That's not.
In a game that low scoring,
Okay, I apologize. He had a great game. He's amazing. Now they have no shot because they had a shot before.
Felipe, the only thing I'm saying is that he was getting the second most carries. So for a game, like I think Mostert, if they were to win, I think Mostert would find a way to play the Chiefs. But I think for a game.
What do we got here? It's 6.
It's 30 seconds.
I think for a game, I think they can overcome Mostert. Armstead to the right tackle, even the right tackle ain't playing. Armstead plays before the right tackle does.
Here we go.
You You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Top of the morning to you. Hope you didn't stay up late last night. There was no reason to. Hope your week is off to a good start. How the heck are you? Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Thanks so much for being with us. Great show today. David Samson, Pat Kirwan. Mark, how are you?
I'm good. I am tired. I did stay up. I watched the coronation last night.
Wow, good for you.
That was the last college football game I'll watch until August, so I watched the whole thing.
I understand. I mean, in January, you can count them down, between the handful of bowl games that remain once we get to January 1st. And then, now we're down to we got 13 NFL games, baby. That's
right.
it. I mean, hell, they didn't even play the Pro Bowl anymore. Can't even count that, even though we never did. You and I were at Alabama Notre Dame 10 years ago for the then BCS championship. And it was 28-0, like 2 minutes into the second quarter. And you and I were sitting in the auxiliary press area, which was upper deck end zone of what is now Hard Rock Stadium. And I do remember turning and looking at you and going, want to go home? And I had felt that way at the half last night, 38-7. How many folks who made the trek out the SoFi, particularly TCU fans, looked at one another and said, what do you say we just go back to the hotel bar?
Certainly the way they felt. Most of them stayed, however.
Yeah.
As they continued to root and try and support their team getting annihilated last night by the back-to-back champion Georgia Bulldogs.
And, when you're a 2-touchdown underdog, you need to play your A game and hope that they play their C game. And when it happens in reverse, oh boy.
Yeah, I thought, and I don't remember exactly who said it at halftime, but it was like, TCU can thank Ohio State for the way Georgia's playing because Kirby rode them for 10 days.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. The only part of it that bothers me is Nick's won how many championships at Alabama? 6? Because I think he's got 7 all told. So I think he's won 6 at Alabama. I don't ever recall Alabama winning the national championship, and from the coach on down, them saying, people have doubted us all year. Excuse me? Georgia was preseason number 3. They were favored in every game they played, almost by double digits in every game they played. 6.5 over Ohio State, and I think the Tennessee game was 8-ish. Who the hell doubted Georgia for a minute? And remember Michael Jordan would create these imaginary slights, and after he would beat an opponent, particularly in the playoffs, the team would be like, what's he talking about? Well, yeah, he said you guys said this and did this, and they're looking around like, is he out of his mind? And I felt like from Kirby on down, they created this alternate universe that didn't exist, but it worked. I'm guessing since you stayed to the end, did you stay for any post game?
Yeah, I did. I stayed for some post game.
At any point in time during it, did you go, what the hell are you guys talking about?
Well, I was more watching Stetson. I was the story, watching the end of that story. And I thought for sure, I was just wanting him to say, and I'll be at Stetson Bennett Chevrolet on Saturday signing autographs. I was waiting for it. It never happened.
And while you're there, you can get Stetson Bennett Allstate insurance.
Correct.
Okay, for your home and car, right? Hey, serious thing here. If you're Stetson Bennett, do you pull a Mike Eruzione?
Yes.
I mean, because Mark, I mean, Eruzione, he was, I think, Stetson Bennett's age. Wasn't he like 25 when we won the gold?
He was, if not the oldest member of the 80 Olympic team, he was certainly one of the 2 or 3 because he had actually played a touch of minor pro hockey before that. So Eruzione never was going to play in the National Hockey League and knew it.
Right. But, obviously, he was getting a bunch of offers because he would have sold, every minor league place out that he played in. And he thought about it and he said, no, last time I laced up the skates, we won the gold. That's how I'm going to go out. And Stetson Bennett, 25, is he a top pro prospect? No. Would he probably now get drafted on the 3rd day somewhere? I'm guessing yes. I mean, don't you think beginning in like the 5th round, he becomes a viable, he's a winner, he's athletic, he knows how to play the position, probably not a starter.
Really smart kid. So
right.
Yeah, he's a 3rd day pick. Absolutely.
And if you're Stetson Bennett, as you just pointed out, because let me tell you, you're going to have a hell of a life. A hell of a life.
He's a living legend. And I know in these parts on the Florida Sports Network, it's not what we're supposed to be saying this morning. Because Gator fans waking up even more angry than they went to bed last night.
Oh, my God. The Gator fan is numb. Just numb.
But talk about living your best life. Stetson Bennett will live his best life.
Let's hope so. Let's just hope he has a nice, long, healthy life, because if so, it's going to be glorious.
He is a legend.
And if you're Stetson Bennett, like you said, well, I mean, I could enter the draft and be a 5th, 6th round pick of whatever. But then again, between now and the draft, I could have like 4 car dealerships and have my name on an insurance company. Hell, I might even already be a member at Augusta by then. I don't know if I'm even interested in this whole draft thing. I mean, I know Billy Payne's not the chairman of Augusta National anymore, but his voice is very much heard behind the scenes, and he is a big Dog fan. We joked about it a year ago at this time. Buck Belew's had a hell of a life and career off a quarterback on a couple of Georgia teams, in which basically handed the ball off to Herschel and threw one glorious pass to Lindsey Scott. All right. And he's had a 40-year professional career off of it. And if Stetson Bennett said, I'd like to broadcast Georgia games, they'd tap Buck on the shoulder and said, you had a good run. You got to go.
Right. This guy had 6 tutties in the Natty. I don't know what to tell you.
His second Natty, by the way.
Right.
You didn't win that second Natty. All right. We had a shot, but we didn't win it. So, that's my only complaint to Georgia.
5.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bad night to be a horned frog.
Or a frog, either way.
Yeah, or a hypnotic toad, whatever it is. Whatever reptile you were last night, it was the wrong one.
Tough night for purple last night. All right, color took a big hit last night. Really did. So just imagine, we do occasionally on the show, imagine you win the Powerball. I think, what's it, $1 billion now, Mega Millions right now?
Yes, it is.
Okay, you dream. Just imagine, you know what, the odds of that, just imagine you're Stetson Bennett. I mean, heck, this is way beyond being Super Bowl MVP. Where are you going? I'm going to Disney World or Disneyland. Oh, please. Are you kidding?
Put it this way. Herschel Walker, off of his football prowess, nearly made a Senate run. Stetson would win.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Just saying.
Yeah. I think he could run as a communist and win. I mean, I don't want to say he's popular or anything.
I think he could run.
I do. Now, I think it'd have to be in the next 2 years. I don't necessarily know, if he could, 6-8 years from now. But, oh, man. Could you imagine if he had one more year of eligibility? What the heck would his NIL be for next year? I mean, honestly, I don't know how many guys on the Falcons would make more money than Stetson Bennett.
And for that matter, I don't know how many should.
Right. Could you imagine if he had one more year, he could turn to Kirby and go, so how many 4 and 5 stars you got lined up for my job now? If I could just run the offense a little better, you little. Good luck without me, by the way.
Well, that is the interesting part. I don't want to advance too quickly, but to me, after what Stetson did as the walk-on transfer come back, there's a lot of pressure on that next guy.
Yeah.
A lot of pressure on that 5-star that's going to replace the walk-on.
Yep. I mean, I think, Nick's won 6 titles. I think he's done it with 5 different quarterbacks. That's what Kirby's now. That'll be his thing. Okay, well, you guys don't think I can win it without Stetson Bennett. Kirby, just keep making up whatever you want to make up. You're living in your own alternate universe here. People doubted us all year. Where? What planet? Seriously.
You were number 1 by the middle of September.
And by the way, just want to announce the Florida-Georgia game is leaving Jacksonville because there ain't a damn thing Kirby Smart can't get now. Okay? Jacksonville better kiss goodbye to the cocktail party.
Miller and Moulton, great show lined up for you. David Samson, Pat Kirwan will both join us to chat on Miller and Moulton right here on the Florida Sports Network.
David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa Filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa Filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa Filters.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again.
Yeah. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Life, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Life is supported with the help of local partners like Zeffy's Tavern and Pizzeria at 41 and Wiggins Pass. Award-winning pizza with a cool rock and roll theme. Don't miss North Naples' newest sensation, Zeffy's Tavern and Pizzeria. When it's time to leave, book with the award-winning service for Naples Daily News Best of 2021. 250-mile radius, live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Serving a 250-mile radius of Southwest Florida over 15 airports. Salt Life Transportation, the official transportation of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show. Book now, 239-308-8686, or online at saltlifetransportation.com.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
KW, you think we'll have these type of blowouts in the championship game? Because I don't. I think if this was a 12-team playoff, TCU doesn't make it to the championship.
No, because they're not going to be seeded. I don't even think they're seeded 4 in a 12-team playoff, for the record.
So
they don't have to play the political game of putting them in because they deserved it. They would have seeded them where they thought they were. And I don't think a lot of people in that room thought they were 4, but they thought they deserved getting in.
Because you got to remember, they wouldn't have been a conference champion. So you would have had the 6 conference champions and the 6 wild cards, and they would have been one of the wild cards. So where would they have been seated? Possible they get a home game. Possible maybe they're the 7 or the 8, something like that. But
I think they might have been a 5-6 too this year.
Yeah, it's possible. No doubt, Taylor. No doubt. If he runs in 2024, he'd walk right in. Walk right in.
So I went to a friend's house last night to watch a game. He invited me down, just neighbor. And he was watching the McAfee broadcast. He's like, do you mind? I'm like, I don't care. Whatever. They interviewed Tebow. First off, Tebow was great. They made Tebow give a speech to TCU at halftime. But the one guy at McAfee's staff asked Tebow a question. He says, "As being one of the greatest humans ever." Tim answers, "Well, I'm not one of the greatest humans ever, but I know who he is," or something along those lines. And they finish the whole thing, and McAfee looks right at him and says, "Jesus Christ, that's who you meant, right?"
The big fella. Right?
Tim's like, that's who I was implying. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Right. Oh, God. Tebow was funny. He let his hair down a little bit with him. He was good.
Tebow yucks it up on that SEC Nation.
I don't ever watch it, so I was pleasantly surprised.
I mean, they make fun of Feinbaum, but I mean, they yuck it up.
Ooh, it's going to be cold. Well, I don't know by Monday. When does Jacksonville play? Saturday?
Saturday night.
It's going to be chilly.
It ain't going to be chilly.
Chilly.
10 seconds.
Got me out of the whole Orlando trip, so thank you, weather.
What game was 36 Saturday night? It wasn't 36 at Jacksonville Saturday night.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
"21 minutes after the hour, Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Thanks so much for being with us. Georgia with more than one exclamation point. Are you a multiple exclamation point guy? Like when you send someone a text? Because I'm not.
If I do put exclamation points on there, there's usually multiple. 2.
I'm a 1 exclamation point guy, but I may use it, like a short sentence, exclamation point, another short sentence. I might throw in another exclamation point. I edit myself when I'm texting. It's kind of like you and I using the word great. We try to use it very infrequently. It's the same with exclamation points. It's, at least for me. I'm like, oh, man, don't go crazy on the exclamation points now. Most stuff isn't worthy of an exclamation point. Georgia last night was worthy of at least 3 of them.
Is there any game, you're much better at this than I will ever be, but did that remind you of any championship game? How long back were you thinking when you?
Well, Mark, I was there for Sammy Baugh in Washington beating the Giants 73-0. But no, in all seriousness, there were 2 or 3 things. Early on, I was thinking about the title game we were at when 17 minutes in, it's 28-0 Alabama over Notre Dame. And I'm like, wow, we got a 2-hour ride ahead of us. There's no one leaving right now. We could get right out. Hell, we could probably stop for a bite to eat and be in bed by midnight. Should we leave? I thought about a little bit Nebraska, Florida, 95, 62-24, which didn't feel that close. Although early on, at one point, it was 10-7 Florida. I thought of Marino's last game in Jacksonville, 62-7. Things like that. A little bit the first time UNLV played Duke in the Final Four, and they beat them by 30 in the championship game, and it was not that close at all. They beat them like 101-71 or something in Denver, and believe me, that was a 40-plus point game. So, things like that. Kansas beat Dwayne Wade's Marquette team in a Final Four by like 45. It was like 103-58. All right, was Dwayne Wade's last college game. He took them to the Final Four, and they got absolutely destroyed. The things like that popped into my head. But no, that you could argue. Well, first off, how about this stat? By margin of victory, it's the biggest bowl victory ever. All the bowls, history of the bowls. No one had ever won one by 58. How about that?
Wow. And it's a championship game.
Right. Moulton, like we talked about, it's on 17 networks last night or whatever it was.
It was.
You know what we should have done? And I didn't think of it. Did anybody flip over to the TCU broadcast?
No.
Darn, I should have thought of that. Man.
That would have been a tough watch. Who's having a worse day right now, Florida fan or Michigan fan?
That's a great poll question. I
mean, Michigan, if Michigan fan watched that game last night, which I don't think that they did, had to be just disgusted.
How about Ohio State fan thinking they're that close to a natty? Are you serious? We're one play away, and this thing's over at the kickoff. My goodness. I think Ohio State fan probably be third, but yeah, that's a good one. Florida or
Ohio
Michigan.
State fan lives at third with angst.
I'm guessing Michigan barely over Florida. Barely.
Because you're right. Gator fans just numb right now.
They are. Now, as the days go by, the numbness is going to turn to pain, though.
And then pain will turn to anger.
Well, who are they going to be angry at?
The world.
But
they're going to be mad at Napier. They're going to be mad at themselves. They're going to be mad at Georgia. They're going to be mad at damn near everything that they can be mad at until the opening game of the season.
Well, you actually, while being funny, you actually are touching upon something which I think could be true. Is Napier going to have to live with a collective 10, 12 year now Gator angst, where they're not going to necessarily give him what they gave McElwain and Mullen and Muschamp even, in which they're now going to look at Napier like, yeah, you need to start winning like right now. Okay? I don't want to hear it.
Not to mention, we don't exactly know how the SEC is going to look with Oklahoma and Texas coming in. Not saying that they're better than Florida. I'm not trying to say, but we don't know what divisions are going to look at. We don't know how the conference realignment's going to look. All that I can assure you, Gator fan, is that whatever it is, it's going to be harder than it is today.
Correct.
That's the only thing I know.
I mean, if they eliminate divisions, whew. Here, we can ask a poll question. Another one. When's the next time Florida beats Georgia? When is the next time that Florida beats Georgia? It's just a game. Anything can happen. Remember, Dan Mullen beat Georgia in his third year and was fired 13 months later. I mean, we just saw it. TCU beat Michigan. If we said this a week ago, by the way, and some people got angry at us, we said if TCU and Michigan played 10 times, we thought Michigan would win 8. But that just happened to be one of the two. Florida. When's the next time they're going to beat Georgia? Right. Yep. I hear you, Mark. I think that's the right answer. Yep. Don't know what year that was. I'm trying to figure out what it was you exactly said. I'm trying to decode it. But, yeah, I think you're close.
So to me, waking up as a Gator fan is going to be tough this morning. I mean, think about it. Florida State seems to have their path of what they're doing. I'm not even going to worry about Miami. But the two teams you worry the most about if you're a Gator are the Noles and the Dogs. And the Dogs are light years ahead of where you are.
And remember, last year's team was better. I know people aren't going to come to that conclusion because last year's team lost the game and this year's team didn't. And then the 65-7 championship game. Historically, you can't lose what they lost to the NFL draft and be better this year. They were better offensively this year, but I think last year's Georgia team beats this year's Georgia team. Personally. That's just me.
Kirby coaching the offense of both?
No, Todd Monken's got the offense of both, but he's got last year's Stetson Bennett. Remember, very different Stetson Bennett. He ain't doing, that cocky walk and mic drop stuff last year. He's like, you guys going to let me throw on 3rd and 6? No? Okay.
No, we'll hand it off. Play defense.
Yep. Okay. Yep. Okay. This year, you kidding me? Give me the damn ball.
So sorry, Gator fan, but it's going to be a rough morning. Your numbness is not just from the cold outside.
That's our poll question. When's Florida going to beat Georgia again?
2024, 2027,
2024, 2024.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Life, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Life is supported with the help of local partners like Zeffy's Tavern and Pizzeria at 41 and Wiggins Pass. Award-winning pizza with a cool rock and roll theme. Don't miss North Naples' newest sensation, Zeffy's Tavern and Pizzeria. When it's time to leave, book with the award-winning service for Naples Daily News Best of 2021. 250-mile radius, live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Serving a 250-mile radius of Southwest Florida over 15 airports. Salt Life Transportation, the official transportation of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show. Book now, 239-308-8686, or online at saltlifetransportation.com.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Paul, that's a great question. That's a very fair question.
How many times will Florida beat Georgia between now and 2030?
Are we counting 2030? So they've got 8 games left?
Yes.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30. So in the next 8 meetings,
Right.
how many over under 1.5? What would you take? Over under 1.5.
Half.
I'd take the under.
I would too.
I mean, I know you should take the over, but I would take the under. Because to me, they're not winning any of the next 3. So we've really reduced it to how many of the last 5 do we think they're going to win? And they'd have to win 2.
And I don't think Kirby's ever leaving.
Oh, I don't either.
I don't think anybody in the NFL would want him. I don't think that style, that guy works in the NFL.
No, I mean, maybe
he's home.
I mean, the only chance of an NFL job would be Atlanta. That does he just look at him and go, come on. But I don't think it'd work in the NFL. I don't at all. I don't think it'd be as bad as Urban, but I think it'd be Urban-esque. Here's the other thing to consider. I'm telling you, Kirby can get. There's not a damn thing Kirby can't get now. I'm telling you, the cocktail party, unless Kirby changes his tune, it's leaving Jacksonville.
And it might not be 1-1-2. It might be a home
and home.
Period.
Right. He may just change it. You really think those big money Georgia fans can say anything now? Anything. You think he's obnoxious now? Oh, my goodness. Spitz, I'm with you. It might be the best chance Florida has to win a game or 2 in the rivalry. I cannot emphasize it enough how awesome Saturday night was at TIAA Bank Stadium versus how the cocktail party is from an atmosphere standpoint.
The fireworks that went off after the win were amazing.
And just, I mean, think about it. You have half the fans on every play that are not making any noise. How can that? I'd love to go to the Red River rivalry shootout, whatever the hell they call it. I would love to see how Oklahoma and Texas, how they make that work. And Spitz, it's a shame because it is an amazing stadium.
The shot I liked when they showed whoever it was up high, like, just that end zone there looking down at the 5 decks looks really cool.
It really is. It's an awesome stadium. It's a great fan experience. The circular scoreboard along the it's a,
so is it out in the middle? I mean, not in the middle of nowhere, but is it quite a ways from anything?
Well, it's across the parking lot from the Fabulous Forum. But yeah, it's
McAfee just made the point in the broadcast. Well, if you want to go get it, you're 10 minutes away, you're 15 minutes, half hour away from anything here.
Yeah, you're a good 15 minutes without traffic away from like Santa Monica and Yeah, a good 15. It's not in the greatest neighborhood.
15 seconds.
And it's
There we go.
in the middle of a city, too.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
"22 minutes before the hour. David Samson joins us at the top of the hour. Pat Kirwan to talk many things NFL at the top of the 8 o'clock hour. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Going to slowly get cooler for the rest of the week, and apparently a cool weekend throughout Florida.
I know.
And then beginning Monday, it begins to warm up everywhere. Temperatures not quite normal, but getting there into the early part of next week. So just, you know me with weather on the 8s.
Father Fathead's weather updates.
That's right.
Florida football hoping to beat Georgia by 2030.
Brought to you by Stetson Bennett Insurance. Time now for
The Starting Five. 5 stories you need to know. It's the Starting Five on Miller and Moulton. Here's number 1.
it's Stetson Bennett's world, and we're all just living in it. 6 touchdowns he was responsible for last night. Threw for 4 of them, ran for 2. Mark, I thought it was bad when TCU was down 38-7 at the half and had been outgained 354 to 121. Then the second half happened when they got outscored 27-0 and got outgained 235 to 67.
I know at one point Bowers had more yards and receptions than TCU had as a team.
Georgia becomes the first team to go back-to-back since Alabama in 2011 and 2012. They put a 15-0 season on the board. Don't know if it's the greatest team in Georgia history, but it's the best resume. 65-7. Dogs over the Horned Frogs in the biggest bowl margin of victory ever. They've been playing bowl games a long time, Mark, the SEC has now won 13 of the last 17 national championships. 13 of 17. It started with Florida over Ohio State in 06. 13 of 17. Think about it. You can count on one hand the number of national championships that all the other conferences have won combined. Florida State in 2013, Ohio State in 2014, Clemson in 16 and 18. 13 of 17. Hey, you're not going to believe it. You know who the top 2 betting favorites are to win the national title next year?
Alabama and Georgia?
Correct.
Huh.
Somehow, Kirby and Georgia is going to claim that people doubted them all year. First downs were 32-9, by the way. Georgia had the ball 12 times. They scored 10. They punted once. And, they were driving when time ran out to end the game. There you have it. A lot of college football news yesterday. First off, Lee Corso made the Sportscasters Hall of Fame. Not just the college sports, the National Sportscasters Hall of Fame.
And he should.
I don't disagree. I'm just saying that, Lee Corso, synonymous with college football. He went in with the late Dan Kelly, legendary hockey announcer. Can't believe it's taken this long to put Dan Kelly in the Sportscasters Hall of Fame.
That's An oversight, to say the very least.
Yeah, that's appalling. But meanwhile, the College Football Hall of Fame came out and said, hey, I'll let you know who the class of 2023 is. Some headliners. There's this Tebow guy. All right, he's going in. Reggie Bush is going in. Now, I'm curious, when you do the plaque, do you mention the Heisman Trophy?
What a joke.
Do you say he won the Heisman Trophy? Do you just flat list him as the 2005 Heisman Trophy winner?
I would. They won't.
Well, then they better get ready to have an alternate plaque, because I have a feeling I'm throwing this out there. By the time the decade's done, he gets his Heisman back. Think about what's going on in the world of college football right now. I understand rules are different. There's no doubt he got impermissible benefits and all that. Here's the other thing, Mark. Do you think that some national championships start coming back, and all those teams who had their Final Four appearances and or national titles voided, do you think they get them back in the next 10 years?
Let me just ask you a follow-up first before I give you my answer. Is the NCAA still in charge of those things? Then you've got my answer.
In basketball, yes, but not football.
Well, you asked about Final Fours and all of those things. Not one of them's coming back. Not one.
Okay.
Should they all come back? Absolutely. Will they? No.
Bryant McKinney, former Hurricane great, also in the College Football Hall of Fame. Roy Kramer, amongst the coaches who were put into the College Football Hall of Fame. Most people don't know the legendary SEC commissioner who introduced the SEC championship game, which was revolutionary at the time. He was a head football coach at Central Michigan for a long time. And Mark Richt is going to be a College Football Hall of Fame coach. You think about it, he averaged about 9.5 wins a year for what, 20 years? Paul Johnson, by the way, also a College Football Hall of Famer, given a lot of credit for kind of bringing armed services football back to the forefront when he went to Navy. So there you have it. It's a pretty impressive list of players who are going in, by the way. And Michigan's Blake Corum has decided, I'm coming back for my senior year.
Good for Michigan. I don't understand in a million. If I was that young man's father, that wouldn't be happening.
Well, first off, I'd sit down with him and go, let me get this straight. So you're coming back. Why? Because you got hurt? Isn't that more of a reason to go pro? You're a running back.
Good for Michigan. If that's his decision, good for him. But I wouldn't have advised him of doing that.
NFL news, they're cleaning house in Arizona. And here's the funny thing. It was 10 months ago that everybody there got a massive contract extension. Steve Keim, the GM, all right, extension through 2027. Cliff Kingsbury, the coach, the same. Kyler Murray. Yeah. So Kingsbury got fired. Keim, quote, resigned, health reasons. Okay. Here's, though, the reason to think nothing's going to change. So apparently the owner said that he's going to let Kyler Murray have some input as to who the next head coach is. Seriously? We're not even sure he's going to be your franchise quarterback, even though you're going to pay him like one. You're going to let him help pick the next head coach? Cannot be serious. DeMar Hamlin transferred from a Cincinnati hospital to a Buffalo one yesterday. So his remarkable story continues to get better, which is outstanding. Dolphins not getting any good injury news yesterday. Tua yet to be cleared to practice. Tomorrow's the big day with that. Does Tua get cleared to practice by Wednesday? McDaniel seems to be one of those guys who's like, listen, I need 3 practices out of whoever you are. I need you to be practicing on Wednesday to play on Sunday. So will Tua get cleared medically to practice for Wednesday. That's the one to pay attention to. Raheem Mostert, broken thumb against the Jets. He had surgery yesterday. It's unlikely that 6 days later he'll be playing in a playoff game. I don't know if you're aware, but a thumb is a central ingredient to grab something. It's what separates us from the apes, quite frankly. There's a few things. One of them's a thumb. If the apes and the gorillas played football, they'd fumble all the time. Don't know if you ever thought of it that way. NBA. First off, LeBron didn't play. He had a sore ankle. So the Lakers lost in Denver by 13. Orlando got blown out in Sacramento by 25. Mark, we have to start a new streak. That's all I'm saying.
Start guaranteeing losses here pretty soon. Get them turned around.
Milwaukee was down 17, late third in New York, and they said, okay, now we'll start taking this seriously. And they came back and beat the Knicks by 4. And Boston handled Chicago by 8. I do want to say Jokic there. Jokic. I screw it up all the time. He only had 5 shots yesterday, Mark. He took 5 shots, and yet he scored 14 points, had 11 rebounds, and 16 assists. Took 5 shots. It's a pretty impressive stat.
The hell of a triple-double.
Right. That's the whole 14, 11, 16.
No, I mean, it is. Just
right.
That's a...
Right. It's a unique triple-double. And by the way, New Orleans won in Washington. The Pelicans hadn't won in Washington in 12 years since they were the Hornets. NHL, one more NBA note. Injury news. KD, they think, is going to miss a month for Brooklyn. Same injury he had last year when he missed a lot more than that. Steph, they think, is coming back tonight. He's been working out, practicing for 2 days. They think he's ready. AD, by the way, they think they're ready to, quote, ramp up, unquote, his rehab. That's still 3-4 weeks away, though. NHL, we had 3 shutouts in 4 games last night. Philly over Buffalo, 4 spit. Seattle over Montreal, 4 spit. Nashville over Ottawa, 3 spit. All 3 road teams with shutout wins. Kings doubled up Edmonton at home, 6-3. College hoops. Houston back as number 1, Kansas number 2 in both polls. Purdue, Bama, and Tennessee round out the top 5 in both polls. Miami's 13-2. They're 16th in one poll, 15th in the other. Mark, some of the unranked teams include North Carolina, Kentucky, and Michigan State.
Right now, Kentucky is barely a tournament team if they are a tournament team. Their resume is not that impressive. I think their best win's a neutral site game against Michigan.
I will say they've played very few home games. You take a look at like their losses, they're all neutral or on the road. Bethune and FAMU both played doubleheaders on the road against Southern and Grambling. And the men and women from Bethune and FAMU lost all 4 games. Women's poll, by the way, South Carolina is still the unanimous number 1. Miami, Florida State, and South Florida all getting votes, but none of the 3 are ranked. Miami and South Florida should be ranked. NFL, well, 6, Mark, 6 new playoff teams is the final number. Giants, Vikings, Seahawks, Dolphins, Jags, Chargers. 6 of the 14 weren't in it a year ago. Those that were in it a year ago, not in it. Rams, by the way, worst ever record for a team that won the Super Bowl the year before, 12 losses. Rams, Packers, Cardinals, Patriots, Titans, Raiders. The 6 who didn't make it back. And a couple of baseball notes. First off, the Twins now apparently negotiating with Carlos Correa. Huh? He may go back there after all. Marlins signed Johnny Cueto to a 1-year, $8.5 million deal that likely paves the way for them to trade one of their young pitchers for much-needed hitting. And lefty first baseman Brandon Belt signed a 1-year deal with the Jays. And at 8 minutes before the hour, that was
the Starting 5 every weekday morning at this time on Miller and Moulton.
David Samson in 10 minutes' time. It'll be the new time for David Samson. He wants to go even earlier since he's doing his Nothing Personal show live most days of the week at 8 o'clock. He said that 7:35 thing's not going to work for me. And so I figured, Mark, you'd want to do it later. He's an early bird. He's like, no, let's go earlier. Oh, okay.
Don't threaten us with a 7 o'clock guest.
Right.
Are you aware of who we are?
He said, how many guests do you have at 7? I said, none. He goes, none. Why? I go, because nobody's foolish enough to get up that early to come on our show. Except apparently you.
So David Samson coming up next. Pat Kirwan in a little more than an hour's time in his usual slot,
Right.
8 o'clock on Tuesdays and Fridays. Where else but right here on Miller and Moulton. David Samson is next on the Florida Sports Network. Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts, flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Yeah. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Life, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Life is supported with the help of local partners like Zeffy's Tavern and Pizzeria at 41 and Wiggins Pass. Award-winning pizza with a cool rock and roll theme. Don't miss North Naples' newest sensation, Zeffy's Tavern and Pizzeria. When it's time to leave, book with the award-winning service for Naples Daily News Best of 2021. 250-mile radius, live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Serving a 250-mile radius of Southwest Florida over 15 airports. Salt Life Transportation, the official transportation of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show. Book now, 239-308-8686, or online at saltlifetransportation.com.
Miller and Moulton here for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
Mark, remember Nick Charles, Fred Hickman, the CNN Play of the Day?
Yeah, CNN did a nightly sports show. That was a while ago.
Yes, it was. Just work with me. Everyone liked the pod, the Play of the Day. So how about we have the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day?
Sounds good. Fun. Smooth. Like Clutch Vodka.
Listen weekday mornings for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
That's Clutch with a K.
Don't miss the Miami Dolphins watch party every Sunday at the Seaside Bar and Grill in Bonita Springs. Presented by Clutch Vodka. The Seaside will be serving Clutch Vodka drinks, including the awesome Bloody Mary bar at the Seaside. If you can't be at Hard Rock Stadium, come have fun at the best place in town to watch the Dolphins and enjoy the best, clean, crisp, smoothest vodka. That's Clutch with a K. Miami Dolphins parties every week at the Seaside Bar and Grill on Old 41 in Bonita Springs. Powered by Clutch Vodka.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
And yes, DC, final poll today. Here's a question. Does TCU end up second? Or if you get beat that badly, will they actually be?
No, they're not. It's already out.
Oh, is it really?
They're fifth.
Two weeks ago, Chris, I got a cut when I first trip down to Southwest Florida. I think I got a cut on the 28th or 9th. But yeah, high and tight because I said, can you cut out as much gray as possible? And she goes, it's not going to leave a lot of hair left. I said, go for it. We did not, DC.
Glove needs a little oil.
It's an issue. And that's never been my specialty. Can barely change a light bulb. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, good morning. A belated Happy New Year.
Thank you to you too as well.
You could have do college football?
I'm gonna address it for like two of the minutes.
No, I'm just saying, like you personally, or you?
No.
I
went to Wisconsin and I never went to one game.
What?
It's hard to believe.
One of the great party schools in the country.
I didn't say I didn't go to parties. I said I didn't go to one game.
Well, one of the great student unions
ever.
I drove a buddy back who moved to Madison when I was at Michigan State and flew out there and drove back with him. His dad flew me out and we went to the Wisconsin game. And I remember sitting at the union. I'm like 19 years old, drinking a beer at the student union at Wisconsin going, what am I doing at Michigan State? And I loved Michigan State.
I never had a bad day in Wisconsin. Not one. And I never went back, by the way. I've never been back since I graduated because I was afraid I would never leave.
I know you said you'd never go back into baseball, but if the Brewers called.
No.
You would just go for the job interviews, spend a couple days, and quickly.
I do go back to Milwaukee. So I have family there and friends there. So I am in Milwaukee from time to time. Gotcha. That's funny. The only job that would have gotten me unretired was running the Knicks, and that was it. But I'm past that now.
Don't be, please. Please.
They could use some help, but they've needed it for a long time.
You win that one Marlins championship with the Knicks, they'll name a bridge after you. A tunnel.
Yeah. Here we go, guys.
Lincoln's had that tunnel for way too long.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
And for the first time in 2023, joined by David Samson. His daily podcast is Nothing Personal. And now, 3 days a week, it is live. It is recorded live for you to see at 8 a.m. Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Doesn't mean he doesn't do them on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's just, technically it's live on tape. CBS Sports HQ. Follow him on Twitter. David, the letter P. Sampson. David P. Sampson. A belated Happy New Year. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Happy New Year to you. I'm recovering from staying up to watch, waiting for TCU to cover. Waiting. Like I found Godot faster than I could find a second touchdown by TCU.
All right. So you watched. Did you actually make it for the whole game?
Yeah. Well, you know me. I don't sleep. Like that's not hard. The problem with watching a game like that is you're doing the math, and my Nothing Personal pick of the day was TCU plus 12.5. It turns out I needed plus 58, but that's another story. So you're watching and you're doing the math. There's still time. There could be a pick six, and then there's going to be a drive, and then 3 and out, and you're figuring it can happen, and you don't want to give up the dream of losing your pick, which, by the way, I'm winless in 2023 on my pod, which is mortifying since we did so well last year. But that said, just a disappointment. It reminded me of like the Redskins. What was that Super Bowl where the final was like 55-10 or something? Did the Redskins win a Super Bowl by 45 points one time?
Yeah,
when I was young?
The 87 Redskins team trailed Denver 10-0 and I think scored 42 in a row. And then Denver lost the next year to the Niners like 55-10, something like that.
You
I mean,
build
remember
it up. You want a close game. That's all anybody ever wants. And it's just when this happens, I remember being a part of planning games like a World Series game or like a playoff game or an All-Star game or a World Baseball Classic game. And you just want it to be competitive. You dream about a walk-off home run, right, in the bottom of the ninth, or a 2-minute drive to win the game if you're in football. And when you see that slipping away, there's just nothing you can do about it at all, and that's frustrating.
Well, and I mean, it's not that ESPN's very invested in it. They only have every single network that they own covering the game in one different way or another. And as we joked around, we made the mistake of not switching to the TCU broadcast at some point in the second half to see how they were doing that.
Could you imagine what that had to sound like?
I can only imagine like a Manning cast, sitting there. What would they be doing? It's tough, right? It's tough on announcers. You guys know this, right? When you're calling a game where there are tens of millions of people watching, you've got to find a way to keep audiences interested. Football's a bit easier because of the gambling part of it and because of fantasy. But imagine like a baseball game where you're trying in the World Series game 3 when it's, 7-0 in the first inning, trying to keep people from turning the channel. We had something called, this is funny, sorry to mention this, the 10-run rule. The 10-run rule with our broadcasters was that if we are up or down by 10 runs, 2 things are going to happen. 1, we're allowed to drink during the game as the president of the team, up or down 10 runs. 2, the broadcasters are allowed to go into absolute nonsense with reckless indifference to whether or not we would comment, which means they were allowed to tell ridiculous stories and waste ridiculous time in the name of entertainment, and we would not go to the booth to complain about it.
Now, what happens if 10-run deficit or lead gets, cut to 6 or 7?
Great question. You get an IV, right? Because you're back in the game. And 2, the broadcasters have to go back to calling it straight.
I have to admit, though, it's kind of hard when you start drinking. All of a sudden, you show up in the booth and Miller and Moulton turn and look at you and go, "Boss, I think you're a little late."
You have no idea how many years it took to perfect the ability to get serious quickly.
That's, but that is it for the Marlins and teams like that. They just got rid of the broadcasters. That's part of it. When you're bad, how important, you ran a team, how important is that connection? You go through some bad years. The only really connection to the fan base are these broadcasters.
Oh, don't kid yourself. That comes up when you're interviewing broadcasters, when you're hiring broadcasters. I'm not just interested in a broadcaster's home run call. I'm interested in the banter. I'm interested in the filler. I want to know what they're going to do during different situations, not just calling the actual game. That's part of the interview process. Well, for sure.
We thought the biggest mistake, in all seriousness, Jeter made was not taking down the artwork, was not any personnel move. It was when he blew up the TV broadcast booth. It's because of what we just talked about. The Marlin fans loved that broadcast crew, and they were good, by the way. And why would you break them up? You need them more if you're going to go 70-92 than you do if they're going to go 92-70.
So I'm responsible for part of that, right? So under my watch, we got rid of Tommy Hutton, and we hid behind, and I like T-Hut, but we hid behind the fact that it was a Fox decision. But that wasn't true. I said back then, hey, there's nothing we can do about that. That's Fox. But that's just me trying to protect my PR hide as a president of a team. We were in conversations with Fox. If we wanted to save T-Hut, we could have done it. But there was a money issue. And Fox said, you want him, no problem. Just pay the difference of what he wants versus what we're willing to pay. And we could have done that. And we declined. And that was the end of Tommy Hutton, who's now back, by the way, doing many of the games, many of the Marlins games. But it's a big money discussion that teams have with their broadcasters. In radio, we would have sole control over who is doing the radio. everything. The name of the people, what they got paid, the rotation, everything. But on the TV side, as part of our TV deal, we gave the right to Fox, and we only had a right to consult. And that's a legal term for you have no right at all. They just have to tell you what they're doing. But we would sit with them and fly to LA and go through the roster of broadcasters and talk about whether or not a change was going to be made. And when we were told that he was negotiating for more money, we were not going to fight for that.
Speaking of TV, this whole Sinclair deal and what's going on there, how nervous should baseball be with what's going on with their regional cable networks?
So they're not nervous. They're pretending they're nervous, and they're lining up for if Sinclair declares bankruptcy. Here's what happens with the Rays and the Marlins. Let's just be very clear. There will never be a year when TV rights fees are not paid to the Rays or the Marlins. That's not going to happen. The question is, will they have to sort of scramble to put together a puzzle that adds up to the same amount of revenue they get from one source? What do I mean by that? Fox Sports, Sinclair now, Bally's, they write a check to the Rays. They get paid once every 2 weeks or once a month, depending on what their contract says. And let's say they get $100 million a year. So let's say they get paid $10 million a year for 10 months, $10 million a month for 10 months. If that money goes away, they all of a sudden have the right to sell the streaming rights and the broadcast rights to different partners, including MLB as a possible buyer of those rights. It's still worth $10 million a month. But instead of selling it to one group, Sinclair, they may have to split it and sell it to different entities. So it's a pain in the neck, but there's no reason to be fearful.
David Samson, Nothing Personal, is his daily podcast on CBS Sports HQ. You can follow him on Twitter, David, the letter P. Samson, David P. Samson. He's doing Nothing Personal live, 8 a.m., Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, Tuesdays and Thursdays. He's just taping it live. And then it airs, maybe, it's available.
Right after this show, actually.
Right.
I'm in the outfit. I'm in the chair. I go right from you guys. I've got Coca waiting in the other Zoom room. True story.
The chair is squeaky, by the way. Just so you know. All right, I'm going to bring up a very uncomfortable subject. Trevor Bauer. This is a tough one for me in this sense. I have been for 30 years. If you have any sort of act of violence against a woman or a child, I don't care who you are, I would not have anything to do with you. I'm also one of those people, though, David, that believes if the justice system runs its course and you don't get charged or charges get dismissed, then you are usually worthy of a second chance. Both seems to be true with Trevor Bauer. The legal system has determined he had rough, kinky sex with this woman, but nothing illegal was done. He served a 1.5-year suspension. Okay. Do you think any major league team who can get him for minimum wage will give him a second chance?
So I'm going to turn it back on you and ask you to take the microphone as president of the team or GM and stand up and at your press conference announce the signing of Trevor Bauer.
I know.
What's the hook? Are you saying he can help us win a World Series? We need depth in our rotation. We believe in second chances. Is that your hook?
It would be the only thing that I could stand on in which I would, but I couldn't do it because I have publicly 30 years ago said, if there's anything remotely violence against women or children, I'm done with you. But yes, if I hadn't said that publicly, my hook would be, hey, the legal system ran its course. He did not do anything illegal, unseemly, but not illegal. We're going to give him a second chance for minimum wage.
Do you ask your players? Do you take a poll?
No.
Just bring them right in,
not.
right?
I run the organization. You play ball.
How do you feel about what he did to Terry Francona prior to all of this, when he took the ball out of his hand and threw it into center field? Any recollection of that?
Yeah.
You okay with that? No worries?
No, David, if we got rid of all the immature blankety blanks, okay, and we wouldn't have a 26-man roster.
That is a common thing that people say when they're trying to excuse talent over behavior, right? I get it, right? We all find a way to be okay with ourselves each night when we look in the mirror. The problem with Trevor Bauer is there's not a team, whether you're the Padres, who have highly incentivized sort of metrics to beat the Dodgers. Even the Padres can't say to their fan base, hey, listen, I know this one was from San Diego. I know that sexual assault's a big thing, domestic violence. He was in violation of the policy. He got the single largest ever suspension in the history of baseball. All that said, screw the Dodgers, man. We want to beat him. Who's with me? It's going to be like Will Ferrell streaking in old school. Whoever signs Bauer is going to look behind him saying, hey, who's with me? All the fans? And the next thing you know, they're going to be looking for a KFC. He's not playing anymore. It's a movie reference. What do you want from me?
Hey,
no,
it's a perfect movie reference because it is what this is all about. Is that if you're going to make a move, you have to have support. And what you're saying is no one's going to support this inside of an organization right now.
Now, we can go even deeper if we had more time, and we could talk about the fact that the commissioner's office would have zero interest in Trevor Bauer being on a team, much like the commissioner's office had zero interest in Barry Bonds being on a team, and what impact that has on teams, right? We could talk about that as an example.
But I'd rather just leave it with the visual of Will Ferrell naked running down the street at 7:13 a.m. I really would. Thank you, David. Look forward to this. Have a great podcast. Nothing personal with David Samson. He's going to record it in a few minutes, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. He does it live at 8 a.m. on CBS Sports HQ. Thank you, David.
See you later.
David P. Sampson is how you follow him on Twitter. Tough to follow David Sampson. He's outstanding. We'll try to next. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network.
Golfers, are you bored of the same old driving range warm-up routine that's not getting you the results that you want on the course? Power up your golf swing by adding resistance bands to your range sessions with the Orange Whip Golf's Power Strap Kit. Featuring band attachments to your feet and hips, Power Strap resistance training will boost club head speed, increase power, improve flexibility, all with just a few swings. Buy a Power Strap Kit today. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to receive an additional 10% off the already great price of $119.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again. Yeah. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Life, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Life is supported with the help of local partners like Zeffy's Tavern and Pizzeria at 41 and Wiggins Pass. Award-winning pizza with a cool rock and roll theme. Don't miss North Naples' newest sensation, Zeffy's Tavern and Pizzeria. When it's time to leave, book with the award-winning service for Naples Daily News Best of 2021. 250-mile radius, live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Serving a 250-mile radius of Southwest Florida over 15 airports. Salt Life Transportation, the official transportation of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show. Book now, 239-308-8686, or online at saltlifetransportation.com.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Where did you see that college football final ranking?
Heard it this morning on the way in.
Gotcha. Because I'm looking at the AP, which I know is not and they've got TCU second. Michigan,
Yeah,
Ohio
they do.
State.
You're right.
But I'm wondering, is there another one? I mean, is there a coaches?
No,
I
it
mean,
looks like there's just an AP. I'm seeing the same thing. I'm watching Stetson Bennett getting a curtain call, and the only thing I'm thinking that Stetson Bennett IV should only be getting a curtain call on Broadway, not ever in a football stadium. He just did a great job at Hamlet. No one named Stetson Bennett IV should be getting a curtain call during a national championship game.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
21 minutes past the hour. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. If you just missed David Samson, it's another reason to go to floridasportsnetwork.com. Download what you miss on Miller and Moulton here on the Florida Sports Network. Someone in our Twitch chat room, Mark, and I don't know what's been coming in on the text line at 21,000. And if you've never texted us before and want to, you just need to put in a keyword with 21,000. That's FSN Radio, all one word. And then 21,000 gets you through. But the question was, if you're TCU, if you had known that this is how it was going to go, do you want to beat Michigan and get humiliated in the title game?
Yes.
Okay, just asking. Like, I'm curious.
As opposed to what? Lose to Michigan?
Yeah, no. Or what, for example, is it better to go out like Ohio State did? You go out in the semis, heartbreaking, could have won, and you end up losing to the team that wins the title game in a rout.
Ask Michigan fan this morning. They went out close in the semis. How do they feel?
Yeah, but you know it's different. You know, Ohio
Well,
State.
no, I mean, no, it's not.
Okay. All right.
If Ohio State could go out in the semis and that's acceptable, why? I mean, Michigan went out in the semis. That should be acceptable. They played hard.
Well,
they tried their best, David.
I'd like to think in a national semifinal you'd play hard. But, I mean, that's all. Just wondering, would you rather be Ohio State where you get to go, well, lost to the national champion by 1, had a shot, okay, but you don't lose in the title game? Or would you rather be TCU in which you go, made it to the championship game?
TCU.
Okay.
TCU. And look it, I, as a fan, was lucky enough, because I'm not from one of those power schools, that my alma mater one time made the playoff. Got absolutely humiliated by Alabama.
Whacked. 35-0.
Made the playoff. Still to this
that.
day, they made a lot of other teams that would do anything to get in that spot.
Yep. No doubt. No doubt. A lot of teams have not made the playoffs since they've gone to 4. Yep. Florida hasn't. Yep. I was just asking, that's all. Final poll is out. Didn't know if, not that it matters much, although for certain teams, like I think Florida State and their fans were desperately hoping to end up in the top 10. And they finished 11th. Final poll. The voters said we're going to reward Tulane for the Cotton Bowl win against USC. They vaulted them up 5 spots. And so they leapfrogged Florida State. Also they did the same with Washington. They did put them ahead of the Noles. So there you go.
That text line again is 21,000 21,000. Did get this text after David Sampson's interview. You're crazy if you think Bauer won't get signed. Example, Deshaun Watson.
And we'll see. Trevor Bauer is who we're talking about. Reinstated, released by the Dodgers. Dodgers are picking up his salary. If a team signs him, they're only responsible for the major league minimum. So the Dodgers would pay that much less. That's it. So he's still going to get his $20+ million for this year It's just you, by picking them up, you're only paying them a minimum wage. Which, by the way, in Major League Baseball is, I think, close to $750,000, but it's all relative.
Do you think he gets signed by anyone?
I do. Not right away, but I do. The part that David Samson said, though, at the end is he thinks there may be a little blackballing going on, that Major League Baseball has just kind of let the word out to all 30 teams. We don't necessarily want him involved in our game, just so you know. I mean, nothing we can do about it, but we're just saying. So, just throwing that out there.
Yeah, David Samson made it seem as if he's been blackballed from the sport.
Right. No chance. Very little to no chance is what David Samson says about Trevor Bauer. But Georgia 65-7, dominant story of the morning. 13th national title for the SEC in the last 17 seasons, going back to the Gators starting this run back in 2006 against Ohio State. 13 out of 17.
What does this sport need to do to break away from being such a regional sport? Because 16 to 17 have been won in the Southeast.
The only one not in the Southeast was Ohio State in 2014, Florida State in 2013, Clemson's 2 titles in 16 and 18. So 16 of the last 17 in the Southeast. Well, I don't know. Does USC joining the Big Ten help? I don't know.
We'll see, because I don't either.
It's funny. My gut feeling is this may work out okay for the Big Ten, but I don't think this is going to work out great for USC.
That remains to be seen, because they have so many things going for them. And now with an influx of money, you would think that would help propel them.
I'm just curious from a recruiting standpoint. Is this going to help or is it going to hurt? I mean, their recruiting base, do the California kids really want to play half their season 2,000 plus miles away? I'm just curious whether or not there will actually be a negative from a recruiting standpoint to this. I do think it will hurt them in their other sports. And the Pac-12, which they're leaving, is really big on the other sports, the Olympic sports. It's why they call themselves the Conference of Champions. They win the national championship in a lot of the other 20-plus sports. I don't think this is going to help USC and UCLA in those other sports at all.
I don't think it hurts them in hoop. I really don't. And the only two that, really matter are football and basketball. But you're right that it will affect Olympic sports that largely matter only to Pac-12 schools.
But back to the SEC. It just means more. And it's true. It's a slogan that's accurate, though. Try to mock it. It does. It does. Look at the money. Mark Stoops making $8.5 million, okay? To go 8-4 at Kentucky. It means more. It just does. Sorry. Beamer just got a raise from $2 million to $6.5 million at South Carolina.
Beat Tennessee. That's a good win.
Yeah, beat Clemson. No doubt about it.
Those are 2 good wins right there. That's triple your salary with those 2 wins.
Right. The week before that, he got humiliated by the Gators. Maybe the second worst Gators team in the last 30 years. A lot of people don't even think they'll go to a bowl next year, but he'll be making $6.5 million. But also our question of the day, speaking of the Gators, when does Florida beat Georgia again?
Between now and 2030, we've put the over-under at 1.5. We're feeling snarky this morning.
8 games between now and then. How many of the 8 do the Gators win? And that's just assuming the games stay at a neutral field. I think after yesterday, Kirby could change the Georgia state constitution if he wants. Never mind get the game moved from Jacksonville. Miller and Moulton, thanks for listening. Florida Sports Network.
Miller and Moulton here for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
Mark, remember Nick Charles, Fred Hickman, the CNN Play of the Day?
Yeah, CNN did a nightly sports show. That was a while ago.
Yes, it was. Just work with me. Everyone liked the pod, the Play of the Day. So how about we have the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day?
Sounds good. Fun. Smooth. Like Clutch Vodka.
Listen weekday mornings for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
That's Clutch with a K.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Don't miss the Miami Dolphins watch party every Sunday at the Seaside Bar and Grill in Bonita Springs, presented by Clutch Vodka. The Seaside will be serving Clutch Vodka drinks, including the awesome Bloody Mary bar at the Seaside. If you can't be at Hard Rock Stadium, come have fun at the best place in town to watch the Dolphins and enjoy the best, clean, crisp, smoothest vodka. That's Clutch with a K. Miami Dolphins parties every week at the Seaside Bar and Grill on Old 41 in Bonita Springs, powered by Clutch Vodka.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com. You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Well, Paul, come on now. I've been a pretty big supporter of Norvell, but I mean, there's a bit of a difference between Florida State and Georgia right now. And the Gators nearly beat them this year.
ESPN put out their way too early rankings yesterday for next year.
Mm-hmm.
They've got the Noles fourth.
Who's going to be
ESPN.
Who's going to be more hyped heading into next season, the Lions or the Noles?
Lions, because the NFL is a national sport. But I see where you're going with that.
Coming back.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
22 minutes before the hour, Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Pat Kirwan to join us coming up at the top of the hour. Felipe with the play of the day coming up a little bit later on this segment. Let's fast forward. TCU did not win the Big 12 championship. Where do you think they would have been seated in a 12-team playoff? Because, everybody's saying, oh, we're going to get more of these blowouts once we go to 12. I actually think we're going to get less. I think the odds of a TCU making it to a national championship game beginning in 2024 or 6 whenever they go to 12 is going to get reduced because they're going to have to win more than one game to get there, in my opinion.
Well, I think you're right. I think we could get a lot more ugliness in the early part of these games because you're going to be actual home games are going to be going on against some inferior opponents because look at this. It's K-State that would have been playing on the road as a 9, 10, 11, 12 because they would have gotten in as the Big 12 champion.
Well,
TCU would have been TCU would to me would have probably hosted a game, David.
So you think TCU gets seated between 5 and 8?
Yes.
Like this time, the way we had the format this time, we seated them 3rd. But if going forward, where we'll have a little bit more of our bias towards the conference champions, right?
Yeah, well, I don't even mean bias. TCU's still getting in, but I think they got in on a resume, and I think a lot of people thought Alabama or whomever might have still been the 4th best team, but they weren't getting in because of wins and losses. When they can do that, they'll seed it a little differently.
Well, and that's what I'm wondering going forward. Like, do you think, because obviously, Georgia would have been 1 and Michigan would have been 2.
And Ohio State would have been 3 because they wouldn't have been playing one another. Like, at best, TCU's 4.
So you think even though Ohio State was not Big Ten champion, they would have been seeded third?
Yes.
Because the one thing they have to keep in mind, they're not seeding, I should say. They're not seeding the top 6 conference champions 1 through 6.
No, they're seeding the teams 1 through 12.
Correct.
But 6 conference champions get in. That's it.
Correct. So you think upon further review, and obviously, I mean, there's no wrong answer here. But if we were to fast forward this to the 12-team playoff based on how the conference championship games ended, you think it would have been Georgia, Michigan, and then Ohio State, Bama?
Yes.
And then we get into the, are we giving USC? Are we giving Tennessee? Are we giving Penn State? Are we giving TCU, K-State?
I think TCU would have been the 5. That's where I think they would have ended up.
And so we would have had, in theory, a TCU Tulane 5-12 first-round matchup. Okay. And that's something to keep in mind going forward. Just the way we did it when it was just 2, 4 was very different. Well, now 12 is going to be really different. 6 conference champions. So it's not going to be the quote-unquote 12 best teams. It's not. There's going to be 6 wild cards available. Just think about that this year in terms of the wild cards. Obviously, Ohio State, Bama, TCU, there's 3 of your 6. I mean, very quickly. So, how much room's left for anybody else? Tennessee, they would have been in. USC, yeah, they lost to Utah.
Lost to Utah.
Right. So there's 5 of your 6 right there. And then, who would have been the 6? Would probably Penn State, but it would have been close. And then you put in the other conference champions, Utah, K-State, Tulane. You put them along with Clemson, obviously. That would have been your playoff. There's another thing. Would Clemson, because they were a conference champion, okay, but they did have the 2 losses, where did they get seeded, that sort of deal. So think about how differently, same teams, same season. Think about potentially how differently the tournament plays out.
Because K-State and Tulane would have been 11 and 12.
Yeah, maybe a chance Utah's 11, but close because they had 3 losses. K-State had 2.
And Utah's probably 10.
And that will be interesting in and of itself, that we're putting the non-conference champion from the same conference. And think about Utah. Be like, hold on a second. We beat USC. They get the home game. We got to go on the road.
Beat them twice.
Right. I mean, so you could see where these seedings will be pretty interesting. I mean, maybe the committee goes, well, we can't put USC ahead of Utah. Utah beat them twice. They're the conference champion. So maybe Utah's the 7 and USC's the 9, the 10. So, going forward, I think, and Mark, we haven't talked about this. I mean, first off, we're not going to see 65-7 in a national championship game again in our lifetimes. This apparently is the biggest bowl blowout, not title game, bowl blowout. In the history of the bowls, no one's ever won a bowl by 58. So we're not going to see this again. Is it possible you could see it in a 5-12 first round game? That, the 6th best conference champion, it could be from the Sun Belt or the Mountain West or the AAC, and they go to Big Bad Ohio
State, right.
And they just get shellacked. Yeah, okay. It's possible. It's like an NCAA tournament game, right? 102 to 59, a 116-215 matchup. We see that. But I'm just curious and I don't know, Mark. Like, I don't know if TC gets a first round bye, or if in fact they, like you say, they're the best of the teams that are going to play in the first round, but they're going to play at home. Right? That to me would have been interesting. If we had a 12-team field, how much differently would the top 5 or 6 have looked?
What do you think? Would you have had TCU in your top 4?
I think so. I think they would have. Now, I think they would have finished. I think Ohio State would have been third.
That's for sure. The only reason Ohio State wasn't there is that they weren't going to have Ohio State play Michigan in a national semifinal. It wasn't going to happen. It's a TV show after all.
And I think it would have come down to TCU or Bama at 4 or 5. And the whole, once again, and we've yet to see it, but then again, we've always had a 2-team tournament and now a 4-team tournament. When we have a 12-team tournament, will they not rank teams based on the number in the right-hand column?
Well, it depends what their net is.
Hey, come on now. The net's better than RPI was
That's
at the
true.
end. We can't mock net. It's an improvement. It's still silly, but it's an improvement. But, I mean, that is something in which it will be curious when their committee is sitting down and seeding 1 through 12. In the past, they've never done this, but maybe this year, Mark, would they have looked at TCU and said, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. The 2 loss Alabama's the 4, you're the 5.
What'll be interesting is when they have 3 of the 4 teams that are SEC teams in the Final Four when this 12-team playoff gets going.
Well, Clay Travis, I believe, was the one that maybe it was Barrett Sallee, but one of the 2 of them took to Twitter last night and said, I'll make you a prediction. When we start going to 12 within the first 5 years, we will have a Final Four that is all SEC. Now, I don't agree with that, but what you said, I agree with. I think within the first 3 to 5 years, we get a Final Four with 3 out of the 4.
Look it. We got 1 more year of this, then we start with 12. More than
That's the hope, right?
More than likely.
Yep.
So the 23 season will be the same. So we'll have 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. In those 6 seasons, how many times will 2 SEC teams get a bye?
Ooh, wow. So they'll be seeded 1 through twice.
Minimum.
I would say 2 of the 6.
Minimum.
The one thing that hasn't started to happen yet, it did to a small degree this year, but only on the one side. And remember, sides are supposedly going away. SEC is still East and West. Greg Sankey says the divisions are going away. Mark, if that's the case, we'll get much more balanced scheduling, one would think. I mean, you want to see something embarrassing? Look up Georgia's schedule next year. Michigan from this year looks at Georgia's schedule for next year and goes, damn, that's something. I mean, I got to admit, it's not like anybody's not going to renew their season tickets at Georgia. You should look at what their home games are next year. Oh my goodness. It's a horrendous schedule.
They open up with Tennessee Martin.
Uh-huh.
That's UT Martin.
Right.
Followed by Ball State at home.
Uh-huh.
Then they get South Carolina for their SEC opener.
Uh-huh.
Followed by the Blazers from UAB. Trent Dilfer coming to town.
Right. It's 4 straight home games, by the way, right?
Right.
Okay.
At Auburn, home for Kentucky. So 5 of your first 6 are at home.
Right. South Carolina, Kentucky are the 2 SEC home games. Continue.
Then they go to Vandy, week off before the Gators in Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
Back-to-back home games with Missouri and Ole Miss. At Tennessee, at Georgia Tech.
So to review, by the way, their home SEC games are South Carolina, Kentucky, Missouri, and Ole Miss.
Yes.
That's and fortunately, though, you get Tennessee Martin and Ball State and UAB or whatever it is there.
Right.
How about that home schedule, huh? Huh? Now they'll still have Stetson Bennett on the poster, even though he can't play anymore. I mean, but that's their schedule.
And if you don't think that Florida is going to be a home at home pretty soon.
Exactly.
There's not one big game for Kirby to bring recruits to. Not one.
No. What's he going to do? The South Carolina game? Kentucky game? late the Ole Miss game? Seriously? Right. Yeah, Jacksonville, I hope you've enjoyed the cocktail party. That run is ending. Maybe this 2-year option gets picked up. Maybe. But by like 26, 27, yeah, this sucker's going to be a home and home. Ain't nobody saying no to Kirby now.
Not a chance. Time now for our Clutch Vodka play of the day. Clutch Vodka, that's Clutch with a K. Felipe, what do you have today?
Pretty lame night in sports last night that was highlighted by Georgia absolutely dominating TCU. Stetson Bennett with 6 touchdowns, his most impressive to his teammate, Ladd McConkey.
With the play action, Bennett looks down the middle. McConkey's wide open. Touchdown, Dogs. 37-yard strike. Another clever play design and masterful execution so far by the Dogs.
Stetson to Ladd.
Right.
Right.
Stetson, have to admit, if that happened,
the rowing championship at Harvard.
If that happened in the D3 final at Rowan, okay. But yes, Stetson to Ladd. 65-7.
That's our Clutch Vodka play of the day. That's Clutch with a K. Check them out at clutchspirits.com. Use the hashtag Clutch Spirits when you are hashtagging any of your drinks with that delicious vodka.
Gut feeling. You're Todd Monken or you're Will Muschamp, offensive, defensive coordinators. Next year, when somebody offers you the head coaching job somewhere, yeah, okay, it'll be a raise. I mean, Monken, I think, is making 2-ish. You know, Will, I think, is making like 1.5.
What school is going to offer Moncton the job where it's a raise?
Well, that's number one. But let's just say he gets offered a Power 5 job.
Okay.
But honestly, at this point, if you're Will Muschamp and Todd Monken, I mean, now Will recruits. I don't know how much recruiting Monken does. He just calls the plays.
Might close a couple guys that are on campus, set them down and show them a thing or two.
Yeah, maybe go down there with the quarterbacks, maybe. Yeah. Right.
Somehow I think Will wants to do it again because there's a bad taste in his mouth, but Moncton's not going anywhere. Nowhere.
If I'm Will, though, I've done Florida and South Carolina. I mean, I got to leave the SEC, right? I know what I'm going up against.
And does he really want the Purdue job?
Or go to the ACC? I mean, do you want one of those?
Miller and Moulton. Sticking right here on the Florida Sports Network with Pat Kirwan. He is next. We will switch gears and talk the National Football League with Pat on the Florida Sports Network.
David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Don't miss the Miami Dolphins watch party every Sunday at the Seaside Bar and Grill in Bonita Springs. Presented by Clutch Vodka. The Seaside will be serving Clutch Vodka drinks, including the awesome Bloody Mary bar at the Seaside. If you can't be at Hard Rock Stadium, come have fun at the best place in town to watch the Dolphins and enjoy the best, clean, crisp, smoothest vodka. That's Clutch with a K. Miami Dolphins parties every week at the Seaside Bar and Grill on Old 41 in Bonita Springs. Powered by Clutch Vodka.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again.
Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Life, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Life is supported with the help of local partners like Zeffy's Tavern and Pizzeria at 41 and Wiggins Pass. Award-winning pizza with a cool rock and roll theme. Don't miss North Naples' newest sensation, Zeffy's Tavern and Pizzeria. When it's time to leave, book with the award-winning service for Naples Daily News Best of 2021. 250-mile radius, live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Serving a 250-mile radius of Southwest Florida over 15 airports. Salt Life Transportation, the official transportation of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show. Book now, 239-308-8686 or online at saltlifetransportation.com.
Miller and Moulton here for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
Mark, remember Nick Charles, Fred Hickman, the CNN Play of the Day?
Yeah, CNN did a nightly sports show. That was a while ago.
Yes, it was. Just work with me. Everyone liked the pod, the Play of the Day. So how about we have the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day?
Sounds good. Fun. Smooth. Like Clutch Vodka.
Listen weekday mornings for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
That's Clutch with a K. Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com. You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Johnny Mac, we've talked about that, and we think that the first round is going to be mid-December. We think that they can't wait till around New Year's Day.
Morning, Pat.
Good morning there, Mark. David.
Morning.
Did you watch college football for the first time last night?
Absolutely. First of all, if I didn't watch the game, I watched the candidates. You know, Georgia's going to give you a little foothold on the first round and the second round and maybe even the third round. So, yeah, there was plenty of guys to watch. And,
will Stetson Bennett get drafted?
I think someone in the 7th round will take him, maybe because of the Brock Purdy stuff. He's a little bit of a gamer, and he doesn't throw the ball bad. And look, a lot of guys don't like him. But I wouldn't. In the 7th round, I remember when I took Glenn Foley. No one cared about Glenn Foley. We ended up cutting players over Glenn because he was a gamer. The first time we put in a 2-minute drill, he went against the first defense and ran him right down the field. So I think the kid will get picked up in the 7th round. You know, there's really 8 rounds, right? Well, those compensatory picks add up to a whole round. And is he an 8th round player? Yeah. I don't know. I like winners. And Purdy's kind of shown everybody who screwed up that and passed him 7 times. Might have taken that guy.
Tell you what, though, Pat, I think Brock Purdy is costing Jimmy Garoppolo a lot of money because the biggest thing Garoppolo had going was his 1-loss record, and now it's like, well, Jimmy, I don't know what to tell you. They put Brock Purdy in place of you. They haven't lost.
Well, that's relatively true, but there's a lot of teams that Garoppolo's better than their guy. Like I have 13 teams. I know one of them is getting solved very shortly, the Giants, but there's 13 teams that are entering the offseason with quarterback questions. Some are contractual and some are talent. There's a place. I can name a couple where Garoppolo could walk in and start, so he's not going to lose any money. Did you see the list? Brady, then we go to Garoppolo, then we go to Baker Mayfield, And, and before you know it, you're talking about Gino, who Pete will never let him out the door. Andy Dalton. They're going to tag Lamar, so there's not enough guys to where Jimmy's going to make, I don't know. Once the Daniel Jones comes out, it'll be 4 years for $30 million a year, maybe 3 for 30 a year. He's trying to fight for a shorter deal if it's going to be 30. So Jimmy will get something for 29, 20, 28 and a bunch of incentives.
If I was Jones, I would sign 3 for 100.
And they might solve that. No, they were 2 weeks ago. I told you they were at 24 to 28 range.
10 seconds.
And after that big game, they went over the 30 line. So they're not going to the 40 line. So you might as well take a short deal. They can't let him go though.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
Just like that, it is the 8 o'clock hour. Miller and Moulton on this Tuesday. And while we've spent a great deal of time talking about Georgia's demolishment of TCU and all the ramifications and what the future could look like for Florida and the SEC and the rest of the country, now we turn our attention to the National Football League with the first of Pat Kirwan's weekly appearances. Pat, moving the chains, weekdays 3 to 7, NFL Radio. Part of CBS's NFL Today show, joining us once again courtesy of Pinchers, Tampa to Key West, Pinchers, because you can't fake fresh. All right, regular season's over, 13 games left. How you holding up?
I'm feeling real good right now. To think I'm going to prepare for 6 games this week. Well, I don't know what I'm going to do with my free time. I might call you guys and just talk about other stuff, non-football. David, maybe some fishing. But, yeah, 6-game preparation. And then next week, a 4-game preparation. Winding down nicely. But the transition to the draft and free agency is already on. I spent a lot of time this morning, last hour or so, just working on some of the depth in free agency at positions. And certainly last night's game had enough draftables in it that I had plenty of work to do there. So getting excited about going to the Senior Bowl and catching up. That's really when I get going. When this postseason starts, I get more time to work on the college stuff.
Well, and the coaches are already starting to go. Pat, how many coaches' jobs are on the line still with the playoffs starting?
To me, we're at a function of Sean Payton. And if Sean Payton doesn't like the openings that are out there, which he shouldn't, then someone's going to fire a coach in order to get Sean. So I think we'll get 1 or 2 more, which we'll hit the average or a little above the average, right? What are we, about 5 or 6, David, every year? Maybe 8 or 9 once in a while, but
I think last year we had 8. I think most years the number is definitely 6, and we're already at 5 if you include the in-season firings with Kingsbury yesterday.
Well, I think we'll get to 7, but as I said, the candidate, that being Peyton, will push someone out the door that wasn't going to go out the door. I will say this: you start looking at the list, you've got to philosophically have to ask yourself, do we want a veteran coach or do we want a new guy? Now, if you want a new guy, good luck if you're not going to give them the time to succeed, because history says they're going to fail, and that 3 years of their 5-year deal, they're going to be out. And that happens most of the time.
All right. Looking back at the weekend, I heard an interview you did with one of the Jacksonville players yesterday. Just talk about the Jags, because they didn't play that well offensively. They got it done. But this Jags defense, are they something? How impressed are you with what Jacksonville's doing on the defensive side of the ball, Pat?
Well, they've given up very few points, 3 points, and the last game, I think it turned about 22, 24 points the last 3 weeks. But you look at who they played, and it's a little bit of an illusion there. Things are going to change now, I would suspect. But I like him. Corey Peters is who I was talking to. He had a nice game, 7 tackles and a half a sack and a couple of hits on the quarterback. But they think they're better, and they got better support from the offense. And it's a very interesting game. I was hoping that we were going to get that game. We did not get that game. We got the rematch. And look, everyone's played each other in the playoffs right now. You covered that for sure. Everybody knows each other. There's no like, hey, for the first timers. So you got a lot of background information on each other. We'll see how much it holds up. But to me, the Chargers, they should have a better football team. I'm not so sure they show up all the time. So Jacksonville a little bit on a roll. I think it's going to be hard to beat those guys.
Pat, is it significant at all? Do you think there's any carryover? Clearly, Jacksonville is a very young team with a first-year head coach who we all know has won a Super Bowl, the whole deal. And they appear to have a franchise quarterback in place. Does anything that happens in the next week or so, does it matter heading into next year? Like, hey, win the playoff game. That's the beginning because we're going to go on a 5-year run here. Or does it not matter?
Well, I don't think it matters. I mean, a couple examples off your question. I mean, the first year Sean McDermott was in Buffalo, they got to the playoffs, and Sean knew that team wasn't good enough, so he got rid of most of it and hired Josh Allen, and the rest is history. But so you tell me, David, I'll answer your question with a question. Who psychologically is in better shape right now? Them, who was in the playoffs, or Detroit, who didn't make the playoffs, but there's a wave of optimism about the future there.
Well, I actually think they're kind of in similar places with similar records. One was just able to win a really bad division. Like, to me, I'd rather beat Detroit than Miami, to be brutally honest.
Yeah, and I think I'd rather be Detroit than a bunch of teams because, they did not have to. It was pretty clear when they got the news right before the game that they weren't going to be in the playoffs because of Seattle's victory. It didn't faze them one bit. They were in a mini world. They were like, let's just worry about beating Green Bay because that's our division opponent. They're going to get a chance to have the best division record outside of the 49ers in the NFC. And they're going to beat their arch rival, the team they hate the most, that they never been able to accomplish. So Dan Campbell had them in a mindset, and I think their future is extremely bright with where he's taken them and how he thinks. I gave him my vote. I had to vote for 3 candidates for Coach of the Year, and I put him in as the third. And I was very happy to do it. I think what he's accomplished this year is almost extraordinary, considering the culture, if you want to call it that. I don't even know what that means anymore. Every time I see a thing of yogurt, I see culture, and I don't know if that has nothing to do with football.
I'm just concerned if you're eating too much yogurt, Pat. Just be careful. That's
my wife eats it all the time. I don't go near that stuff.
That's as I say. It's supposed to be good for you, and that's not something that Miller and Moulton recommend all that highly. All right, David asked a question, kind of looking forward. I want to look back. Dallas was terrible.
Yeah,
I mean, they played a bad football game. Dak was awful. How quickly can you just dismiss that heading into the postseason?
I don't think you can dismiss it now. There's a lot of teams that are up and down. As soon as you said that, I thought, well, the Vikings kind of play that way too. They'll lay an egg and then play real well. There are teams that'll, I was talking to, who was it? Maybe it was the Tampa Bay guys. They'll have a bad game, then they'll play 3 good swings. So there's a lot of teams like this. But I would be personally concerned about that, the way they looked. They couldn't run the ball at all. You go look at, I think they were about 2.5, 3 yards a carry. So they couldn't do that. They looked sloppy. They looked like they knew, well, we're the 5 seed and it doesn't matter. That's a very bad place to be. So I have some suspicions about their ability to go. Now, can they win a game? Yeah. Can they win 2 games? Maybe. Can they go the distance? No way.
Well, and I think we all are curious as to how many wins Mike McCarthy needs in order to stay. You figure it's got to be at least 1, but it may also have to be 2. He's Pat Kirwan, NFL Radio's Moving the Chain, CBS's NFL Today show. His weekly appearances brought to us courtesy of Pinchers. You concerned about Philly at all? Hurts is clearly injured.
Yeah. Well, I had this big debate with guys about Hurts before the game. And oh, he's playing. I said, yeah, he's going to play, but he's not the same guy. He's not going to run. And in a lot of ways, I would not have played him because they lucked out. He did not get hurt again, but you saw a guy that was not 100%, and he's lucky he didn't get tagged because it looked to me like he might have been missing the playoffs if he did. So they held their breath. They played him. I don't know. The guy we watched, this is right to you, David. The guy we watched, was Minshew going to be any worse than that?
Well, clearly they thought so. I will say this, the Minshew who played in Dallas, no. But for whatever reason, the stinker he threw up against the Saints freaked them out enough that they felt they needed to play Hurts. Because I didn't buy into the whole Pat, he's got to play or else he's going to go 4 weeks without playing. Well, when you suffer an injury, you go 4 weeks without playing. I don't know what to tell you.
That's right. And so what we saw was they have a nice football team, but I did see a guy, he would not cross the line of scrimmage. There were about 5 or 6 plays in that game where a month ago, he would have crossed the line of scrimmage for a 15-yard run gain and moved the chains. And he was not crossing out. Now, he might have been under orders. You're not allowed to, but why? Because he's not 100%. Now, the bye should help him. And then all of a sudden, they'll say he got the rust off. Guys like him don't get rusty. They get healthy, and then they play.
You mentioned Minnesota earlier. They've laid a clunker, but these rematches, they didn't play the Giants. I mean, the Giants played them very tough. I guess which rematch are you most looking forward to, Pat?
Well, I'm not in New York. Obviously, I'm down here, but I've got a lot of family in New York, and David's sitting. I'm staring right at him right now, and he's a Giant fan. I think the Giants, look, they played it smart. They rested their quarterback and their running back, and go back and look. Those two guys had very good games against Minnesota. The problem was the defense couldn't handle Jefferson and Hockenson, the tight end. Those two guys had 25 receptions between them. So, I think Minnesota is going to be favored right to the end, and the point spread might even go up a little bit. But I think the Giants, what I saw last week, this is right to you, Mark. I saw a bunch of Giant backups play pretty well. And it told me, especially on defense, that their scheme is pretty interesting and pretty tough. And they sacked Cousins 4 times last time. They will come after Cousins, and they even got their backups to execute well. So I think you're going to see a lot of pressure on Cousins. I don't know if they can cover the tight end and the wide receiver. It might be the same score again.
We talked about it yesterday. In case you missed the show, Pat has referenced it twice already. All 6 Super Wildcard weekend matchups are rematches at the very least from regular season games. Dallas and Tampa opened the season against one another. The Giants and Minnesota played on Christmas Eve. Niners and Seahawks obviously played twice, as did Cincinnati and Baltimore, as did Miami and Buffalo. And Jacksonville went into Los Angeles and thumped the Chargers. I believe it was week 3. So that's what Pat is referencing. We mentioned it yesterday. We have rematches in all 6 playoff games. Miller and Moulton. Pat Kirwan. More with him on the other side. Looking back, who's in trouble for their job this week, and beginning to look ahead at Super Wildcard Weekend. Pat, moving the chains on NFL Radio, NFL Today Show with CBS, and joining us courtesy of Pinchers. Pinchers from Tampa to Key West, because you can't fake fresh.
David Moulton for Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again.
Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Life, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Life is supported with the help of local partners like Zeffy's Tavern and Pizzeria at 41 and Wiggins Pass. Award-winning pizza with a cool rock and roll theme. Don't miss North Naples' newest sensation, Zeffy's Tavern and Pizzeria. When it's time to leave, book with the award-winning service for Naples Daily News Best of 2021. 250-mile radius, live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Serving a 250-mile radius of Southwest Florida over 15 airports. Salt Life Transportation, the official transportation of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show. Book now, 239-308-8686 or online at saltlifetransportation.com.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com. You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Where and when are you heading out, David? David, when are you heading out and where are you going?
I just have to go to Tampa, but I'm heading early. Midday Sunday, right before probably your Bills Dolphins game. I'll drive over because I want to be set up in the hotel room, ready to go to watch the Giants.
Yes. Are you wearing a Giant jersey in the hotel room?
I will not. No.
Thank you. Because Mark and I wouldn't have it. We just would.
No, probably just his Giants parka because it's going to be so damn cold this weekend.
No, I'll be okay. I won't be outside.
Well, it's an interesting game. I go back and forth on who's going to win that thing. I mean, Dallas should beat them up, but they probably won't.
Well, it will be very interesting if Tampa Bay makes Dak beat him. He's thrown a pick in 7 straight games.
Yeah, we have a lot of haters of Dak, and I always try to defend Dak because they're over the top in hatred, but he's not helping me.
Oh. I mean, what's he tied for the league lead in interceptions, and he missed 5 games.
Believe me, he's shaky now.
Yeah.
You know what it looks like too? I hate it. I'm not there, so I shouldn't say it, but he doesn't look like he's a real smart guy. You throw that many interceptions, you're either making bad reads, which is part of it, or you're panicking and you don't even know how to get rid of it. Or, which I think is the new dimension problem for him, he doesn't run anymore. He used to take off and solve some of those problems with his feet. He doesn't do it.
And that's where those tipped picks are coming from. Everybody wants to blame all the tip picks on everybody else, but sometimes you're throwing the ball in traffic because you won't run the damn football.
Yep. He just looks very cautious to me. And maybe like Jim and I talk about it, like Jim said, he looks to me like a guy that's not psychologically recovered from being injured. He knows he's healthy, but he doesn't play like he's healthy.
Well, that 2-play sequence that he had in the first quarter when he threw a ball that should have been picked, and then he comes back on the very next play and throws the pick 6, in which he's A, completely late, and B, throws the ball on the inside to the wide receiver running an out. I mean, this is his 7th year in the league. That was a stunning 2-play sequence. I mean, that was Zach Wilson-esque.
Yeah, but I think when you've been injured and you are really psychologically compensating, why is a ball on the inside?
Right.
Why? Because he doesn't transfer his weight, or he's panicking and he's throwing it short with a short arm. He can throw the out route perfect, but why isn't he? And to me, his mechanics are being influenced by his brain. Like, I got to get rid of this.
Well, there's not a lot of mustard on that ball either, Pat.
Nope. We got a glimpse, and I think it's temporary. His looks like it's permanent, but there was no way that the quarterback there in Philadelphia, Mr. Hurts, looked sound because he's playing hurt, and it's mental for him now. Which leads me to the two guys of this weekend, Tua and Lamar. And Dr. Chow does not think Tua is going to play. Did you see the point spreads by who's going to play quarterback? I've been laughing about that. It's like, well, we have one of three quarterbacks. Here's the point spreads by quarterback. It was really great. 7, 10, and 14. I think it's the same both ways.
20 seconds.
Well, when the Bengals-Ravens point spread opened at 6.5, I thought you had to just jump Cincinnati.
Yeah. But they post three ways, like with Lamar, then if it's Hundley, and then if it's Brown. I love when it's Brown.
You're listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network.
21 minutes past the hour. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Pat Kirwan, kind enough to rejoin us. NFL Radio's moving the chains, weekday afternoons from 3 to 7. Weekends, CBS's NFL Today Show. Pat joining us once again, courtesy of Pinchers. Are the Ravens at a crossroads? This is 2 seasons in a row now that Lamar gets hurt and can't play. And even if he plays Sunday, he ain't going to be close to 100%. I mean, the guy's yet to practice in 5 weeks. And, we all know they don't have anybody else. They're going to have to tag him and what have you. But I'm just wondering if this is a very smart organization, Pat. And they blew Brian Billick out, and it shocked everybody when they did it. But they obviously had a great read on what was going on there. And I'm just wondering, are the Ravens at a crossroads?
Yeah, and I think there's a crossroads inside the crossroads because your whole description of Lamar and not practicing is all true. But here's a guy that used to practice and get to the postseason and stumble and fall. So even when he was physically 100% and well prepared, his postseason world was not a very good thing. 1 win, 3 losses, 3 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. And the most alarming thing about him in the postseason was the 19 sacks, or 1 sack every 8 pass plays. So he has not demonstrated, like Cousins, that he's a step up and play in the postseason. And that's when he had everything going for him physically. So for a guy that hasn't practiced in a situation they're in, I don't want to paint doom and gloom, but if they play him, because they will if he's healthy enough to go, I'm not having great expectations for what he's going to do. Plus, the Bengals, this is why Lamar's record is so good against the NFC, because they see him once every 4 years, so they don't know how to play him. But those guys that play him a lot know him. And I would say Cincinnati, Lou Anarumo, and those guys, they'll be very happy to play against Lamar.
Well, then is that just an automatic for a franchise tag then? I mean, with all the answers you gave, I don't know how I sign him long-term. What do you do beyond this year if you're Baltimore?
Well, I think this is a blessing in disguise that they get the opportunity now to franchise tag him. If he was smart, he doesn't have an agent. He'd be running to the office going, "You want to still do that deal?" If I'm the club saying, "No, let's not. Let's just hold off. You wanted to hold off. Now we want to hold off." Unless you want to change the number down, which he won't. So, no, franchise tag. And then to answer your question, Mark, there's a second franchise tag out there. And you know what I would do? I would try to trade him. Like, there are people that actually think we got to get Lamar. I welcome. Go ahead. Go get him. You better bring in backup quarterbacks that can do what he does, because once you go down the Lamar road, it's such a unique offense. You better figure out how to keep your receivers from all running out the door and leaving. because they don't want to block all day.
Do you think the Ravens tag him and yet at the same time go, we got to go find his replacement because we're moving on in a year?
I would absolutely be drafting one. And not one that plays like him. They already have those kind of guys. Run around athletes that can try to keep so the guy who's calling the plays doesn't have to change the plays. But yes, it's time to go get one in the draft.
Pat, okay, they put, as you mentioned, they went with, 17 tight ends and linemen of a certain build and the running backs and the whole deal. How long will it take them to reconfigure that team offensively if a year from now they're going to go with a young drop back passer?
2 years. Can't do it in 1. 2 years. Because some of the things, the receivers will be happy for sure. The lineman issue, they've got good running backs. The tight ends are good value. You don't need 4 of them, but you like to have 3 of them. So where's the transition? It's transitions in the play calling, the structure of the offense. But in my mind, it'll be time to move on because I don't even, and it's not even all those things. I don't trust the shelf life of quarterbacks who play like that. He's now hurt. You mentioned it. He's been hurt a couple years in a row. And he has not delivered in postseason.
Pat, of the jobs that are open, which one are you most interested in? Carolina, Houston, we've got Arizona, we got Indianapolis, and Denver. Which one would you want?
I don't like any of them, but I would take Denver over those, and I'll tell you why. The owners have a lot of money. That's why. I don't want to get specific on why I don't like the other ones, but I'll get specific. Arizona's quarterback, I don't want to coach him. The owner of Indianapolis, I don't want to work for him. The guy in Carolina, he's still learning how to own. I'd be really worried about that one. So, yeah, Russell's the reason no one likes the job. But you asked me to compare those 5. I don't like any of them. But that's what happens with openings. You got to deal with what you have. Bill Parcells' number 1 rule to me was, make sure the owner has real money first. Who wins that battle? I told my wife, start buying at Walmart. We're going to Denver.
What about Houston?
No.
Bad division, ton of cap room. All right, you've got 2 high picks. They're finally out from all the mess that they created themselves. All right. I mean, do you trust, I guess, the GM and the owner? Because I could make the case that, what the balance sheet is actually something you could work with.
They don't have a quarterback. I love that Lovey won that game. He knew he was getting fired. We're going for 2, and his play never fails. Boom. I'm fired. We won. Take it easy. No, I don't. Look, it's the son of an owner who owns the team.
I know.
And he's trying to learn how to own. And I think he's got good intentions. But they've been in this bizarre personnel selection philosophy for multiple years. 1-year deals with 30-year-olds. I mean, write a book about that. No one will buy it, but it's a good read. Sorry.
Now, I have to admit, I thought that they were doing it intentionally because they were just biding time to get themselves out of the cap hell and draft pick hell that they put themselves in. So now, in theory, I've got a bunch of guys I can bring in a new roster. I've got money, the whole deal. But, just.
And the division to me, because if you're in Denver, I know what you're saying, Pat. He's got all kinds of money. I've still got to go up against this Mahomes guy and this Herbert guy, and that doesn't look like the best recipe to keep my job.
Well, that part of it's true, but you asked me to compare those 5. I don't like them. And I'll tell you the other thing David said I'll take issue with. Like Jacksonville is about 4 years ahead of where Houston is. Houston can't catch them. And for a coach to go in there and you can't catch a team in 2 years, you're going to get fired again. They like firing coaches in Houston.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. The only thought is maybe drafting second, you can get a quarterback.
Well, I talked to Billy O'Brien yesterday for a while. I said, there's time they put a bronze statue of you up there in Houston to remember how well you coached. What did you win? 4 division titles?
I was going to say, if you could bring him back as just coach, it'd be a hell of a hire.
Well, he might take it.
He's Pat Kirwan, NFL Radio's Moving the Chain, CBS's NFL Today Show. He joins us courtesy of Pinchers, Tampa to Key West, a dozen or so locations in between. Pinchers, because you can't fake fresh. All right, do your homework. On Friday, we're going game by game, all right?
Yeah, can I say something to you, too, before you throw me out of here?
10
I had
seconds.
so much fun at 7 o'clock last week on Friday. I want to come back at 7 on Friday.
Well, I mean,
if that's allowed, and if you got a schedule that's a conflict, I'll stay where I was. But I loved 7 o'clock. I hadn't seen Mark laugh that much in a long time.
Well, you were grumpy. You were like someone auditioning for the Snickers commercial. I mean,
no,
you were
asked
great.
if you should be fired, and I cut you right on the spot.
Miller and Kirwan, Friday at 7, coming up here on the Florida Sports Network.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again.
Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're gonna have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this, wouldn't you?
Salt Life, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Life is supported with the help of local partners like Zeffy's Tavern and Pizzeria at 41 and Wiggins Pass. Award-winning pizza with a cool rock and roll theme. Don't miss North Naples' newest sensation, Zeffy's Tavern and Pizzeria. When it's time to leave, book with the award-winning service for Naples Daily News Best of 2021. 250-mile radius, live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Serving a 250-mile radius of Southwest Florida over 15 airports. Salt Life Transportation, the official transportation of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show. Book now, 239-308-8686, or online at saltlifetransportation.com.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network. Yep. Also makes it easier to book an 8 if you've got
Got some numbers here, David.
Good.
Of records versus playoff teams' records against teams with winning records.
Go for it.
One minute. $15 seconds.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
The home stretch of Miller and Moulton, at least in Lake City and surrounding areas, Tampa, St. Pete, and Port Charlotte to Venice, as the syndicated part of the show ends in a little more than 15 minutes' time. The bonus hour for the 239 begins at the top of the hour.
Got some numbers for you, David. Usually you're the one telling me that you have numbers.
Right.
I've got a couple of numbers for you.
Shoot.
Records of the playoff teams versus teams with winning records.
Okay.
In the NFC, 4 of the teams have winning records against teams with winning records. The Eagles are 7-1. The Niners are 4-1. The Cowboys are 6-2. The Vikings are 4-3. The Seahawks are 3-3. Tampa Bay is 2-5. And the Giants are 2-7. In the AFC, only 3 of the teams have winning records. Kansas City and Buffalo are both 5-2. Cincinnati is 4-3. The Dolphins are 4-5. The Jags are 3-4. Baltimore is 2-6. And the Chargers are 1-5.
Huh.
The Chargers one stuck out at me. I knew they played the Chiefs twice and lost, but they lost to the Niners. They got whacked by the Jags and lost to Seattle as well.
Well, not only are the Giants 2-7 against teams with a winning record, and by the way, Washington finished 8-1, so the Giants going 1-0-1 against them doesn't count. One other Giants footnote, they went 1-4-1 in the division. Because if you add it up, Mark, like you're talking, Chargers 1-5, well, the Giants 2-7. Let's just look at their record against the playoff teams. 0-2 against Philly, 0-2 against Dallas, 0-1 against Minnesota. I think they also lost to Tampa Bay or Seattle. I think the Giants are 0-6 against the teams in the NFC playoffs. Now, some of them were close, and, especially the Minnesota one, they got beat on a 61-yard field goal on the final play of the game. But the Giants are going to be a trendy upset pick. But, the fact of the matter is, by the way, who's the Chargers win against a winning team?
The Miami Dolphins.
That's right.
The Miami Dolphins, David. The game that we circled in April. Yep. And it turns out they both would get in.
So their win against a winning teams against a 9-8-7 seed. Basically, they push that win as far down the poll as they could. Does this count? Yes, barely. Like final 10 seconds of their final regular season game of the year, barely. Oh, okay. But we'll take it. That's why the Jags are going to be a trendy pick, Mark. Giants and Jags, I think, are going to be the trendy, quote-unquote, upset picks. Because they're both going to be 3 points or less, basically.
Yeah, Jags started at 1.5. I don't know what it's at now. I can't imagine it's going to move a whole hell of a lot in that game.
Trendier upset pick. Giants, Jags, or Tampa Bay?
Oh, I think the trendy one will be the Jags. Because the Chargers have so many coaching blunders late in games. If it comes to a close game, do you have faith in the Chargers? They're a little banged up from last week, which will be a side note on this game should the Chargers lose.
No question. I think it's going to cost Staley his job. I mean, it's the job Sean Payton wants. He wants the Chargers job. He has not been shy about it. Now, the big problem, though, is Spanos is cheap. And the feeling is Sean Payton's not going to take a discount. And remember, you're going to have to give up compensation to get him. But I do think, Mark, there are definitely two coaches who have to win to keep their job. McCarthy and Staley. The 2 5 seeds. I think either one loses, they're gone.
Do you think there's any chance that Harbaugh is gone in Baltimore?
I do. I don't think it's a good chance, but I think it's why I asked the question of Pat that I did 20 or so minutes ago. I do think the Ravens as an organization are at a crossroads. Now, Harbaugh is going to say, well, I went all in with Lamar. That's what you wanted me to do. We drafted accordingly. We play. I mean, we're winning. We have a winning season every year. I mean, the only reason I didn't have a winning season last year was Lamar missed the final 7 games of the year. We went 0-7. I mean, my quarterback stays healthy. We're a top 3 team in the AFC. You're going to fire me? And I will say he'd be unemployed for, about an hour and a half.
No doubt. But that's the outlier that I'm looking at as to a coach that isn't maybe on the high-end radar for getting let go, that if they lose, which I think they will, and I think they could get whacked without Lamar, that it could be the end for Harbaugh in Baltimore.
I mean, I will say when they shockingly got rid of Billick some 15 years ago, they had a really bad season. It was just the only one that he had. And the thought was, well, they'll give him a chance to bounce back. Well, they're not going to fire Brian Billick. Boom. They fired him. I mean, it would be very surprising. But I actually think there's a chance because I think the organization's at a crossroads. And when you're at that point, you put everything on the table.
So those are a look at some of the playoff teams, playoff games, some of the records that they have during winning records, a couple of the coaches that we're looking at that have a lot more on them this weekend than others. Text line is open, 21,000-21-000. If you have any comments that you want about the show, whether it was about Pat Kirwan, who we had moments ago, David Samson, who was on at 7, and if you missed any of the show, go to all the usual suspects to download it, including floridasportsnetwork.com.
Dom in our Twitch chat room just said, hey, late to the show this morning. Are we still excited for expanded playoffs after last night? Dom, we made the case that 65-7, which, by the way, had never happened before, and we don't just mean in the championship. We mean no team had ever won a bowl game by 58 before, ever. But we think that that upset is now much more likely to happen in the first round, in a 5 versus 12 matchup, 6 versus 11, where the underdog's going to go on the road and get shellacked. You know, we don't see a TCU making it to the championship game in a 12-team playoff.
In fact, I don't think they would have been one of the top 4 seeds in a 12-team playoff.
And I don't know how many times it would have made it even to the semis if we played it out. And if you could seed them anywhere from 3, 4, 5, or 6, you could give them a home game. You could give them a first-round bye. I don't know how many times TCU even gets to the semis. And I don't think they make it to the finals. You know, we do this 10 times with the teams that we had this year. I don't even think they make it to the finals once in a 12-team format. So.
Well, Stetson Bennett just threw another touchdown pass, everybody.
That's true. Georgia did just score. Sorry about that.
I'm sorry. That just kind of happened quickly there. I thought I would report on it.
Georgia will be preseason 1 or 2 next year, and Kirby will still be pounding the table that, quote, people have doubted us all year. So I have to admit, takes away from their likability.
Look it. This is going to be hard. They were an extremely obnoxious fan base before they won a natty. Now they've won back-to-back.
Right.
Good luck traveling through Atlanta Hartsfield Airport over the course of the next 5 years.
13 out of 17 for the SEC. 6 for Bama, 2 each for Georgia, Florida, and LSU. And Cam and Auburn got their 1.
16 of 17 have been in the South. Florida State's 1, Clemson's 2. Ohio State's the only one that's won a natty.
Remember, that was the one that came from 15 down against Bama. Cardell Jones, Zeke, Tom Herman running the offense there, crushing the edges with their tight ends, just running it down Alabama's throat, and then taking care of Mariota and Oregon to win the whole thing.
But that's it. And we've wondered, when it's a 12-team playoff, how long before 3 of the 4 are all SEC members?
But if it's a playoff, you know, I mean, what can you do? Now, maybe it just turns you off to the sport. Maybe there'll be even more SEC dominance, and you'll be like, you know what? This doesn't interest me. Okay. I think the bigger question, when Mark, you raised it earlier in the show, can this be turned around? Is this just the golden SEC generation? Or have demographics in the country combined with the importance that is placed on football in the South, i.e. coming up with NIL money, just going to be such that, yeah, the championships are damn near always going to be played through the Southeast. It's just a fact of life. If you don't like it, don't follow the sport.
You know, Patrick Royce sent out a tweet earlier this morning that of the Alabama 28 signees, 27 were 4-star or 5-star. Out of Georgia's 22 signees, 21 were 4-star or 5-star. In Ohio State, out of 20 signees, 19 were 4-star or 5-star. Now, Royce's a Minnesota guy, so he just pointed out that one of the Gophers' 21 players were 4-stars. And he even says, not intended as a shot as the Gophs, just numbers showing why college football, in his opinion, sucks. Now, I don't think college football sucks, but it does show you that the rich just keep getting richer. And I don't know how you upset that talent balance.
Well, I think the only thing you do is you have 1, 2, or 3 teams that just gobble up the rest of the 4 and 5 stars. And so that the list of 3 or 4 can become a list of 5, 6, 8. And then, yes, you don't have a middle class, but you have more teams who can challenge Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State. I mean, believe me, Brian Kelly's a year away at LSU. I mean, he can coach, and they've always been able to get talent, and money's never been an issue at LSU, above board or below board.
With the athletic department. The rest of the school, hell, who cares if they have money?
Right.
But the football program's always going to have theirs.
Right. Teachers, it's a big problem. Football, not a problem. No. Really, sports, it's not a problem. They spend money on baseball and women's basketball, too. So, there you have it. The fallout from 65 to 7. This part of the show brought to you by Stetson Bennett Ford and Stetson Bennett Insurance.
Buy your car, have it insured, and bundle it with your home as well. And we'll give you a signed picture from Stetson for your wall.
In fact, if you want to sign up right now, just call 877-STETSON. That's 877-STETSON, and we'll hook you up, and we'll even deliver you a pizza.
Rough morning, Gator fan. Don't know what to tell you. You're a little numb. We understand why.
We asked the question much earlier in the show. When is the next time Florida is going to beat Georgia? Just debate it amongst yourselves.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again.
Yeah. Hi. Excuse me.
Hey, the line starts back here.
Ma'am, if your party's not here, you're going to have to go around again.
If you had the opportunity to avoid all this,
Salt Life, making your trip to and from the airport seamless and stress-free. Salt Life is supported with the help of local partners like Zeffy's Tavern and Pizzeria at 41 and Wiggins Pass. Award-winning pizza with a cool rock and roll theme. Don't miss North Naples' newest sensation, Zeffy's Tavern and Pizzeria. When it's time to leave, book with the award-winning service for Naples Daily News Best of 2021. 250-mile radius, live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Serving a 250-mile radius of Southwest Florida over 15 airports. Salt Life Transportation, the official transportation of the Miller and Moulton Morning Show. Book now, 239-308-8686, or online at saltlifetransportation.com.
Don't miss the Miami Dolphins watch party every Sunday at the Seaside Bar and Grill in Bonita Springs. Presented by Clutch Vodka. The Seaside will be serving Clutch Vodka drinks, including the awesome Bloody Mary bar at the Seaside. If you can't be at Hard Rock Stadium, come have fun at the best place in town to watch the Dolphins and enjoy the best, clean, crisp, smoothest vodka. That's Clutch with a K. Miami Dolphins parties every week at the Seaside Bar and Grill on Old 41 in Bonita Springs. Powered by Clutch Vodka.
Miller and Moulton here for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
Mark, remember Nick Charles, Fred Hickman, the CNN Play of the Day?
Yeah, CNN did a nightly sports show. That was a while ago.
Yes, it was. Just work with me. Everyone liked the pod, the Play of the Day. So how about we have the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day?
Sounds good. Fun. Smooth. Like Clutch Vodka.
Listen weekday mornings for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
That's Clutch with a K. Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts, or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts, flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Well, I'm not impressed with all you. We get a bot coming in with a hello, how it's going, and you guys aren't all responding. I expected more out of you.
XFL MVP Stetson Bennett.
Not a chance. Comes from money. He ain't playing in that league.
So is he like in the upper echelon of Georgia quarterbacks?
He's in the upper echelon of all quarterbacks.
No. Like college football?
Yeah. He won back-to-back national titles. It's a pretty short list.
How? Okay. I get the NFL's different, but how is he not getting drafted higher?
Because he's 5'10". He's a college quarterback. He's not.
Dudes are bigger in the NFL. He had some great throws, though. Like some really great throws.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How many guys were covered yesterday?
They were all wide open. TCU's defense was awful.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, gaudy numbers, the whole deal. But if I'm an NFL scout and I'm watching last night's performance, I'm like, okay, where was the really tight window that he threw one in on?
I mean, he was impressive against Ohio State.
He was at times. Yep.
And hell, he beat Bama last year.
USF's opening their practice facility today.
They have a new practice facility. Nice. Wow. Heat Thunder on TNT. That is so weird. That was 10 years ago, TNT.
Did Affleck dress Saban? Or does he go with the Affleck colors on his own, do you think?
In the ads, they do, but...
No, I know. Last night he was wearing his Affleck blazer, though, it looked like.
15 seconds. Here we go.
You are listening to Miller and Moulton, exclusively on the Florida Sports Network. And now, here's Mark Miller and David Moulton.
It is the bonus hour on this second Tuesday of 2023. In the aftermath of Georgia whooping up on TCU and then some, and we are down to 14 teams and 13 games in the National Football League. Miller and Moulton, the Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. A lot of depressed Gator fans, Mark. 2 in the Twitch chat room in the last 6-7 minutes. I have the same feeling I had about the Gators as I did during the Muschamp years. Misplaced optimism. That, according to Adam. And you would think Adam would be just, happy, peppy, bursting with love. He's a huge Jags fan. And what they just pulled off, And there we are, 48 hours of football later, and he's like, buried in bourbon, our Twitch chat room, zero optimism as a Gators fan moving forward. Wow. Gator fan I am. Better get used to feeling like Kentucky for the next decade. Of course,
that was the one that was the gut punch right there. Better get used to feeling like Kentucky for the next decade. Ouch.
Which, of course, with the way things are going this year, are we talking football or basketball? Hello. Is this maybe not the right time to ask Gator fan exactly how they feel about Urban Meyer again? All right. Too soon?
No, it's not.
Just once again, can you tell us how much you don't like him again? No, really. We want to hear it. Please. And you want to know why Ohio State, didn't force him out when everything was going on and let him leave on his own terms. Because there's been one national championship by a team north of Atlanta. Well, no, Clemson. There's been one team north of Clemson.
One team north of I-40.
That has won the national championship in a generation. Their head coach, Urban Meyer. You and I knew it too. We knew every touchdown that was being scored, that the damage that this was doing throughout college football. Those two semifinals seem as if they took place 3 years ago.
And
it was a week and a half.
You've made the comment a few times, how does Ohio State feel? They feel awful. They know it could have been their natty.
Yeah.
But how's Michigan feeling today?
Right.
Because you blew it against a team that got their doors blown off. And I know you're preseason number 2, number 3, number 4, whatever you're going to be. And Blake Corum's coming back, and that's wonderful. And you bring back a lot of really nice players. But you couldn't beat TCU. And Georgia just hung a 60 burger on them.
They're going to say, well, we scored 40-something ourselves. Yeah, you did.
How many did you give up?
You gave up a few. So the fallout from 65-7. We got a few in the Twitch chat room. Don't know what you got on the text line, but we got a few. Oh, this is NIL and college football, and I like it less. I'm going to be paying attention less. We better get used to this. We're going to get more of this. Okay. I mean, Dolphins lost a playoff game 62-7. The team that won it didn't even make the playoffs the next year. They went 7-9. I mean, things can change.
The one narrative that's going to be talked about all day today is, has Georgia surpassed Alabama as the gold standard in college football? Not to me. Not
really?
for this moment they are. But how many does Nick have?
Well, he's got 6. I'm not saying that, Kirby and them, what they've done is better than anything Alabama's done. Nick went back-to-back before.
Right. And they're the top dog right now.
Yeah, they are. Even Alabama, even Nick now can say, guys, we gotta beat them.
And we went through Georgia's schedule next year.
Oh,
they'll be in Atlanta playing Alabama for the SEC title
at 12-0.
Yes,
write it down. In fact, their schedule is so bad.
How
bad is it? If they lose a single game next year before the college football playoff, they should not be in it. No, I mean that.
I know
mean
you
that.
mean it.
No. Think about it. Their regular season's a joke. So let's just say they're 12-0. They lose in the SEC championship game. Don't tell me they deserve a spot in the playoff. They've played nobody. Nobody. I mean, this is one of the few times, you know how the old, well, if TCU was in the SEC, what would their record have been? Fine, valid point. Like educated people yesterday thought if they had to play the SEC schedule, they'd go 5-3 if they got a normal SEC schedule. Yeah, okay, maybe 6-2. Let me tell you something. All right. There are 20 teams with Georgia's schedule that would go 12-0. 20.
Their toughest games at Tennessee.
Tennessee's losing a few people.
Yes, they are. After that, it's a toss-up between Ole Miss at home and the Gators at the cocktail party.
And if you say 20 is an exaggeration, 12. So I'm not kidding. Georgia
will
better
be favored by double digits in every game they play.
Yes, they will.
Double digits in every game they play.
Maybe at Tennessee, they're only an 8 or 9 point favorite. But it's late in the year. And with injuries and what have you, we think is a better chance Georgia's more of a favorite than less of a favorite.
They used the fourth quarter of the national championship as a scrimmage for their freshmen last night. It was senior night at the national championship game.
But that's how embarrassing their schedule is next year. No Bama, no LSU.
No non-conference games to speak of.
The crossover games from the West are Ole Miss and Auburn. Auburn on the road, for what that's worth, if you think that's a tricky spot. First year under Hugh.
So you can book your trip to Atlanta, dog fan, for the SEC championship. Might as well get those hotel rooms now. Probably get a better deal.
But the fallout is Gator fan. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. You haven't won in Atlanta since 2008. When do you think the next time it now with a 12-team playoff, you don't have to get to Atlanta? That's true. That's true. But when do you think you're going to be at the bottom of the last paragraph as Georgia? We're not even going to get into when do you think you're going to beat Georgia. When do you think that when they write a big paragraph about the SEC that you're going to be in the bottom of the first paragraph?
And as we talked about earlier, we're more than likely 2 seasons away from divisions going away in the SEC.
Correct. Now, you can get, and we think they'll go to 9 conference games and you'll have 16 teams. And it's possible that, you have a year where you get a good schedule. And some of the teams that are quote unquote better than you get a tougher schedule.
But you want to and are going to play Georgia every year.
Right. And we think, beginning in very short order, you're going to be playing them home and away.
Because Kirby wants it that way.
Correct. And now, and we've been saying this for a while, but now, tell us who at the University of Georgia is going to defy what Kirby Smart wants. Name the booster who has more sway than Kirby Smart.
Name the state politician that has more swagger than Kirby Smart. What couldn't Kirby Smart get in Georgia right now?
Kirby wants the cocktail party to be a home and home.
21,000's the text line, 21000.
Just saying. Some of the fallout from 15-0, 65-7. And then big picture, 13 of the last 17 national champions coming from the SEC. And as Mark pointed out, 16 of the last 17 from the South. You throw in Florida State's title 9 years ago and Clemson's 2 titles in 16 and 18.
Oh, by the way, Gators, your other crossover game, at least for the time being, is LSU.
Right.
So then there's that.
But in all seriousness, if you have Georgia and you have Alabama, and your editor says to you, hey, in that first paragraph, I want you to put 3 teams. Okay. In the next 2 to 3 years, who do you think that third team's going to be?
With Alabama and Georgia?
Yeah.
LSU.
There you go. There you go. And I mean, it'll be a hell of an accomplishment, quite frankly, between A&M, Tennessee, Florida, you name the team.
Texas, Oklahoma.
Who's going to be 4? I mean, the challenge just to be 4. If you think 4 SEC teams are getting in every year, you got to get in the top 4. Good luck. It's the only saving grace, Mark. The SEC could become the NFL.
Miller and Moulton. Thanks for listening. More on the other side right here on the Florida Sports Network.
Don't miss the Miami Dolphins watch party every Sunday at the Seaside Bar and Grill in Bonita Springs. Presented by Clutch Vodka. The Seaside will be serving Clutch Vodka drinks, including the awesome Bloody Mary bar at the Seaside. If you can't be at Hard Rock Stadium, come have fun at the best place in town to watch the Dolphins and enjoy the best, clean, crisp, smoothest vodka. That's Clutch with a K. Miami Dolphins parties every week at the Seaside Bar and Grill on Old 41 in Bonita Springs. Powered by Clutch Vodka.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
The waterways of Naples are a beauty to behold, and the Bayfront Inn has multiple ways for guests to enjoy the water and have some fun. Gather your family and friends and enjoy a leisurely day on the water with a pontoon or deck boat. If you prefer to explore the waterways without a motor, the Bayfront has canoes, standboards, and kayaks. At the end of your journey, enjoy lunch or dinner at the Bamboo Tropical Bar and Grill. The Bayfront Inn. Something for everyone. On 5th Avenue in Naples.
Golfers, are you bored of the same old driving range warm-up routine that's not getting you the results that you want on the course? Power up your golf swing by adding resistance bands to your range sessions with the Orange Whip Golf's Power Strap Kit. Featuring band attachments to your feet and hips, Power Strap resistance training will boost club head speed, increase power, improve flexibility, all with just a few swings. Buy a Power Strap Kit today. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to receive an additional 10% off the already great price of $119. You are listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
Well, Adam, there's no. I mean, look at they've got their NIL in charge. They got their NIL going on. I think he can recruit, but he's so far behind.
10 seconds.
That's the problem.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
"21 minutes past the hour. Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Miss any part of the show? David Samson at the top of the 7 o'clock hour. Pat Kirwan at the top of the 8 o'clock hour. Download what you miss. floridasportsnetwork.com. Mark, a few other things going on in the sports world yesterday to quickly review. Tim Tebow, Reggie Bush headlining a tremendous College Football Hall of Fame class. The Reggie Bush honor is fascinating because he's too disgraced to let him keep his Heisman, but he's a Hall of Famer. Come on down. Congratulations.
Come on, David. Those are separate organizations. You know that. One has nothing to do with the other. That's the beauty of what this is.
Right. It's true. It's not the NCAA Hall of Fame. It's the College Football Hall of Fame.
And the Heisman's not really an NCAA award.
No,
it's awarded to an NCAA football player.
Right. Technically, it's the Downtown Athletic Club. I'm just wondering if maybe I don't know, with what's going on in the sport right now and what the courts have ruled and all that, whether or not I don't know, give Louisville their men's basketball title back in 2013, give Reggie Bush his Heisman back. I mean,
I think the Reggie Bush Heisman thing could happen. It may happen. I don't think there's any chance of the titles being given back the way you do, because I think the NCAA is just too pig-headed.
I mean, the NCAA has come out years after the fact and admitted wrongdoing in some cases. I mean, they all but apologized to Penn State for the sanctions that they put Penn State through.
Have they given any titles back? I mean, did I miss one?
No, I mean, UMass's, Memphis's Final Fours. No, Louisville's, Michigan.
Right.
Yep.
Impermissible benefits.
Mm-hmm. I understand.
Shut them down.
Right. But, there are a few people that are like, it was kind of selective. I mean, it's not like there wasn't, stuff going on all over the place. You guys are being awfully selective.
Oh, so not only do you want them to give titles back, you want them to apologize for how they conducted their business. This seems exactly like what the NCAA would do.
Well, first off, I didn't say you'd have to apologize, because giving it back is either an apology, if you want to see it as such, or just, hey.
Admitting you were what?
Well, it's just that things have changed, Mark. I'm not going to say I'm sorry, and I'm not going to say I was wrong.
Yeah.
Not going to do that. I'm just going to acknowledge that times have changed, and this is not necessarily a good look for where we are at present time. The other thing is, this new president, you have to admit, we have no idea what this guy is thinking. I mean, he doesn't even take over, I think, till March. So who knows? This guy could be, look at Rob Manfred, who was the right-hand guy to Bud for a long time. He's different than Bud. There are some things he feels very differently on than Bud. I mean, this guy may come in and be, totally different. I'll tell you what, it'd be awesome if he would look Greg Sankey in the face and go, the tournament stays at 68. Okay? I know what you're thinking. From your standpoint, I get it. I don't know what to tell you. The tournament stays at 68.
How many times does Georgia beat Florida before the tournament increases to over 90 teams? Sorry, I know. It's low-hanging fruit, and I just take it.
Very, very. I mean, you grab that like a handful of grapes there. Yes.
What's the proper number of grapes to grab? 5, because we have grapes in the house all the time. I go with 5 grapes as a snack. I could go with 50. But I don't want to leave none for anyone else.
Wait a minute. You just stop at 5?
I stop at 5. That's my snack. 5 grapes.
No, I can see that can be 2 and that could be 20. So it depends. It's kind of like how the first beer goes down. You know, I sit down every time thinking I'm going to have 1 or 2. Every now and then, the first beer is so damn fantastic in which you go, you know what? This could be a 3 to 4 occasion.
All right. Just quick questions. Quick sidebar there.
Yeah. People agreeing with you, though. Okay. Early returns are, in the 3 to 6 range. So, okay. Fair enough.
Well, you and I have always had portion control as a problem.
You think? No. But I'm just saying, back to the whole, things could change. I mean, when you have, how ridiculous does it look in the 2020s? Hey, tell me the Pete Rose thing doesn't look ridiculous now. If you thought it was ridiculous in the 90s and the 2000s, how does it look now? How does Bernie Kosar getting fired and banned by the Cleveland Browns, which happened on Sunday, because Bernie does the in-house radio in the stadium. So when you walk in an hour and a half beforehand, Bernie's talking to guys and interviewing and killing the time for you when you're standing in the concourse getting your first beer. All right? And Bernie, as a lark, placed a $19,000 bet, he was number 19, on the Browns to beat the Steelers. And he said, if I win it, I'll give all the money to charity. And apparently the NFL called up the Browns and said, yeah, he's got to go. Do we need to get into the official, agreement that the NFL has with DraftKings? Every team's allowed to have their own deal and casino deals. I mean, at some point, does someone with the NCAA just go, we have quarterbacks making $5 million. Okay, we're not going to give Reggie Bush his Heisman back? When we all know what's going on in this sport for 50 years. Seriously?
And David, well, and again, I'm not, that's why I was saying these are not NCAA awards. That's why I think you're right on the Heisman. And everything that you said, I agree with. But do you honestly believe the NCAA is going to change course on things? Because that would be unprecedented by them.
Yes, it would. But I think, what has the NCAA been Mark Emmert said and did things why? For appearance's sake. Even though many of us thought it was absurd. Okay? He was into appearances. I think that until proven otherwise, the new NCAA president is going to be interested in appearances. He was a politician after all. They're into appearances.
That came from an Ivy League school. This guy, on the surface, to me, isn't stepping into the right job.
Well, maybe not. Maybe he's not the guy. Tell you what, though. You want to get some good press. You want to get some good PR. Who doesn't like good press? Especially when they're new at the job. Who doesn't want some good PR? Start giving people their banners and their Heismans back and say, we got a lot bigger issues than this. Let's move on. Ha! Ha ha ha! He'd get standing ovations when he showed up at games.
You're on to something there. For appearance's sake, he would look very good in doing some of those things. I will fall over if that happens.
John Calipari get 2 Final Fours back, for goodness sakes, at 2 different schools.
Still wouldn't get into the tournament this year at the rate things are going.
No.
Miller and Moulton, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Today was a day when what's on tap, all still ahead right here. Miller and Moulton here for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
Mark, remember Nick Charles, Fred Hickman, and CNN Play of the Day?
Yeah, CNN did a nightly sports show. That was a while ago.
Yes, it was. Just everyone liked the pod, the Play of the Day. So how about we have the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day?
Sounds good. Fun. Smooth. Like Clutch Vodka.
Listen weekday mornings for the Clutch Vodka Play of the Day.
That's Clutch with a K.
Golfers, are you bored of the same old driving range warm-up routine that's not getting you the results that you want on the course? Power up your golf swing by adding resistance bands to your range sessions with the Orange Whip Golf's Power Strap Kit. Featuring band attachments to your feet and hips, Power Strap resistance training will boost club head speed, increase power, improve flexibility, all with just a few swings. Buy a Power Strap Kit today. Go to orangewhipgolf.com and use code Miller10 to receive an additional 10% off the already great price of $119.
David Moulton for Napa, Napa Auto Parts, and Napa Filters. Insist on Napa filters for your vehicles, or if you're a do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters. Napa has a filter for almost anything on earth that moves, whether it's motorcycles, foreign and domestic cars, vans, SUVs, earth-moving equipment. You get the idea. Napa Auto Parts, Napa filters. Insist on them for your vehicles, or if you're do-it-yourselfer, only buy Napa filters.
Mark Miller for SWFL Golf Carts or online, flgolfcarts.com. If you're looking for a golf cart, an e-bike, or an e-motorcycle, go visit Alex and the gang at SWFL Golf Carts. flgolfcarts.com online. Check out their whole inventory. If you're looking for a custom cart, they can take care of you. 2-seater, 4-seater, 6-seater, they've got you covered. E-bikes, nobody better for value and service. E-motorcycles, check them out. Again, flgolfcarts.com. flgolfcarts.com.
You were listening to Miller and Moulton on the Florida Sports Network.
I've become a wuss logic man. I just drink Miller Lite. But I like Peroni a lot.
10 seconds.
Welcome back to Miller and Moulton, only on the Florida Sports Network.
"22 minutes until the hour is up, 17 until we're out of here." Miller and Moulton, Florida Sports Network, floridasportsnetwork.com. Seth Everett to join us on the show tomorrow. Hey, do you agree with this tweet that I saw? And it might actually have been a tweet like featuring a story about it. Is John Calipari basketball's Jimbo Fisher? You know, John Cal's won a title. Jimbo won a title. Both have now been accused. Both have done really well in recruiting lately. But their on-field results and on-court results have not been that great in comparison to what their recruiting is. And what was the accusation about Jimbo in the last year? It's outdated. You know, the offense too predictable. It's too 15 years ago. John was one of the first to go constant drive and kick. Well, now it's basically all he's got. And the rest of the sports looking at Kentucky going, you know, this isn't that hard to defend. It was, but we've caught up. And so I thought it was an interesting comparison. Is John Calipari just having a down year or so? And same with Jimbo? Or are John Cal and Jimbo, who now turned to Bobby Petrino?
Well, that's what I was going to say. Jimbo can turn to an OC and change things. A little different. I mean, he can change his philosophy, but would be more interesting in basketball to see an abrupt change in philosophy out of John Cal.
And so I thought that was an interesting, I don't know that we know the answer yet because both can turn it around. You know, we gave the Brian Kelly example, went 3-9 at Notre Dame and turned it around the next year. Jim Harbaugh was done 2 years ago. Done. Blew out the staff, brought in a bunch of young guys. They didn't even know them. Look what they've done the last 2 years. It can change at places like this very quickly. But I thought that was an interesting food for thought.
Because right now, I mean, I'm guessing Kentucky's in. I haven't looked at a bracket. I haven't looked at Shelby's or anybody else's, but they're right there. Right there.
So, A&M's, man, we got a long-term contract. The buyout's obscene. Calipari's got damn near a contract for life there. They don't have so much money.
Kentucky fans are starting to turn on him.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they will turn quickly.
And when they turn, that ain't a comfortable place when they turn. Hell, Mark, they may want Rick Pitino back. Hello.
Now that would be something.
You know me. I'm all in. Whatever Rick Pitino wants, I'd give him. I don't care. Don't care. I'm Ricky Gervais.
I was going to say, are you doing the Golden Globes, Mr. Gervais?
I don't care at all. Before Iona hired him, we were doing a show, and I said I'd hire him at FGCU when we were both in the same market. I totally don't care.
It's time for someone to take back this segment, if for no other reason than to stop David from talking about Meghan and Harry. Here's Mark Miller with Today Was the Day When.
Mostly sports today. But we start in 1956. Elvis records Heartbreak Hotel. I did not know this. In 1957, Commissioner Ford Frick rules that Bing Crosby can keep his token stock in the Tigers even though he owns parts of the Pirates, rather. So I did not know at one point Bing Crosby was part owner of 2 Major League Baseball teams.
No, I knew about the Pirates. I just
Right.
assumed that, if you got that, you can't have another one.
Exactly. 82 AFC Championship. In one of the coldest games ever played, Cincinnati outlasted the Chargers 27-7 in a game dubbed the Freezer Bowl. While that was going on at Candlestick, the Niners would beat the Cowboys 28-27. For some reason, I think there was a pretty good catch at the end of the game.
There was back right corner of the end zone. Yep. I think they called it Montana to Clark. Right.
Or the catch.
Yeah, that. Second coldest game ever behind the Ice Bowl there. Cowboys, Packers at Lambeau. But the fascinating thing, that was the week after the epic Dolphins Chargers game in the Orange Bowl. So think about the Chargers. The 7 days apart, they played in the humidity and 2 overtimes in Miami, and then they went to the second coldest game in NFL history.
Today in 86, Kareem gets to 34,000 points. He's still the all-time leader in scoring, although LeBron is closing in. Today in 89, Gretzky becomes the NHL's all-time leader in scoring with combined regular season and playoffs, which would get him 1 more than Gordie Howe. Today in 96, Jimmy Johnson announces a new coach of the Dolphins. And today in 99, this little show would debut on HBO called The Sopranos.
I heard it did okay.
Yeah, it did. It was pretty good. And I liked the ending. 2016, David Bowie died, and a year ago, Georgia won their first natty. Well, the first of these 2, I should say, beating Alabama 33-18. Those born today that are no longer with us: George Washington Carver, basketball coach Lou Henson, Willie McCovey, and Jim Croce. Those celebrating birthdays today: hockey great Frank Mihaljevic is 85, Rod Stewart is 78, Donald Fagen from Steely Dan is 75, George Foreman is 74, Moulton's favorite female rocker, Pat Benatar, is 70, and Glenn Robinson is 50.
I was a big fan back in the day. A big fan. So was my best friend. And my junior year, he was nearly a year older than me. And Steven picked me up every morning. And he had a cool car with an epic stereo system. And we blasted Pat Benatar many a morning on the way to high school.
Well, Heartbreaker rocking out there in the car?
Absolutely. Yep. Driving past the girls who wouldn't go out with us playing Heartbreaker. Sure.
Oh, must have really.
And by girls who wouldn't go out with us, we meant the whole school.
Boy, and rocking that Pat Benatar out of the sound system, that must have really ticked them off and going, boy, I'm missing out there.
Yeah, look at how cool those 2 losers are. We'll say he had a souped up Chevelle. It was really nice. 23 years ago today, AOL Time Warner was formed. I think everybody who's old enough can just wait, do the squeal. You're signing on the internet, at AOL.com. Come on, do it. Wait. It's loading. Another minute and a half. It's almost ready for you. Could you imagine if Felipe, when he came to work every morning, had to sign up for the AOL account and then sit there for 2 minutes while it squealed and it hummed and the gerbil started stretching and warming up before it connected?
Look, you have no idea the inner workings that go on anymore, Mr. Jacksonville. We're going to have to start logging into computers here. There was a big post-show, damn near a meeting yesterday with people that were involved in firing me many years ago that I had to just sit there and nod my head and go, yeah, okay, yeah, that'd be great.
Did you look at them and say, listen, there's no reason showing us this stuff. I'll move somewhere else.
What I wanted to say is, can I just have my old email address?
You've heard folks elsewhere mock Florida is gonna Florida. Well, Mark Miller sees it differently. He calls it the good, the bad, and the ugly. What you got, Mark?
For the good, we go to Hillsborough, Missouri, and the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office. Because according to their Facebook page, they're buying. Sheriff Dave Marshank said it's not a joke or a trick, but we're buying. The deputies need training, so they're letting people get drunk so they can test them with their field sobriety. Here's the catch. You just got to get there. You're going to drink for a couple of hours, and then they're going to take you home.
Okay.
That's it. They're going to do some breathalyzers. They're going to do some field sobriety checks. Basically, to test their deputies, they're going to allow people to get drunk. They're going to provide wine, beer, or liquor.
What's the problem?
There is no problem.
Okay.
That's why it's the good. The only thing is that volunteers cannot have any alcohol-related arrests or pending criminal cases against them. Seems to make sense.
Yeah, that's fair.
For the bad, we go to Spokane, Washington, where a passenger of a Ford F-150 called 911 to report they were being chased down by state police. State police noticed a truck swerving in and out of the lanes on State Road 27. When the trooper activated their lights, they suspected it was a DUI driver. When the driver didn't pull over, a pursuit started. According to the spokesman review, the chase continued for about 10 miles, in which the other two passengers believed the trooper was not allowed to pursue them after a 2021 state legislature limited high-speed pursuits. Of course, this was not true because this pursuit was supervised, but they did call 911 to say, this cop should not be chasing us anymore. Good for them. Everybody got arrested. Finally, the ugly, we go to Matt Lachey, where Doug Hoover's had a bad time. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. His house taken away with Hurricane Ian. And when he came back, he paddled a kayak to see what was left, found his two missing kayaks, paddled back with his two kayaks that he found in the mangroves. Someone stole his two kayaks.
Oh, for goodness sakes.
Like he said, it can be replaced, but grow up. Be kind. Help people instead of hurting people. Could not agree with you more. And we hope that they return your stolen things. And that is the good, the bad, and the ugly on today, January the 10th, 2023.
7 games in the NBA tonight. Heat are home for Oklahoma City. And believe it or not, that's the front end of the TNT doubleheader. Wow. Is there like a rule that got passed that we had to put the Thunder on national television? What's going on there? The back end of the TNT double dip is Phoenix at Golden State. Steph's supposed to return for the Warriors. That should make a big difference. I believe Golden State's 500. I think they're 20-20 as they make their push. 10 games in the NHL, Mark. Both the Lightning and Panthers in action. Tampa's at home for Columbus. What's that, like minus 400?
Minus 400 for the Lightning.
Unbelievable. Columbus is the worst team in the league. And Panthers are in Colorado against the Avs. I know the Avs are scuffling, but they're not scuffling as bad as the Panthers. So this is, although both teams would miss the playoffs if the playoffs started today. A couple other good games. New Jersey at Carolina. Top 2 teams in their division, and Minnesota at the Rangers. College hoops, a couple of interesting matchups tonight, Mark, where you have the establishment that's on the road. Michigan State, unranked, at Wisconsin, who's ranked, yet Michigan State's a 1-point favorite in most places. And then you got Carolina, unranked, at Virginia. Cavs a 4.5-point favorite. So, some of what's going on.
And there's always good Big 12 basketball. because every time they play, it's pretty damn good basketball. Gators are on the road tonight taking on LSU. Gators are a 1-point favorite.
Yeah, Kansas home for Oklahoma, but somebody wrote a piece yesterday that said, can the entire Big 12 get in the NCAA tournament? It's not nearly as far-fetched as it sounds. A strong case can be made that all but 2 actually will make it. That's how good the Big 12 is this year in hoops. So, do your math accordingly. What do we got? We got, no FGCU tonight. They're on the road anyway when they play again.
By the way, South Carolina is a really bad basketball team. I say that because Kentucky's a 20-point favorite at home against South Carolina tonight.
Wow.
Just for what it's worth. Yeah, exactly.
Kentucky just lost by 26 to Alabama. Now, granted, Alabama's top 5, but still.
That's a pretty big number for a bad Kentucky team.
Yeah, it is. And not only that, a team that has trouble scoring. So covering 20 is a big number.
Means they've got to get to the mid-70s, you would think.
Right. So there you go. No football till Saturday. Get used to it. 13 games left, and 6 of them are this weekend. So, start to reintroduce yourself to your family. Hi, my name is. If you need to go the name tag route, nothing wrong with that.
If you have to start putting name tags on your family, however, there may be a problem. If you want to just put one on yourself to reintroduce yourself to your family members, that's acceptable. If you start putting name tags on them, you may have been gone a little bit too long. Enjoy the games tonight. We'll be back at it tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. right here on the Florida Sports Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again,
Yeah. Hi. Excuse